Burnt bones prove nothing. Burnt bones prove nothing. There's some ending. There was some ending. Burnt bones prove nothing. Um, it does really make me paranoid that somebody's watching our video, like my videos. Like, I know that sounds really arrogant, but like, burnt bones prove nothing. Burnt bones prove nothing. What an episode. I've mixed feelings about it. Beautifully shot. My God, what a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful episode. Um, the one super chat that I wanted to get to before everything. I think it was before my list, so it's not coming up on my normal thing. Oh man. But before we get into that, I had an early super chat that asked if I'd read the female and male theory about, or the female and male stuff written about the Vale. I forgot, it's called like male and female um, of the Vale. I forgot the author, but I'm sure if you Google that, you'll find what I'm talking about. But there's this theory that, and I agree with it for the most part. I agree with the fundamentals of it, but it does go too far. But essentially, that the veil is set up as a symbolic womb, and that there's other dick and vagina symbolism going on in the veil. And it's like, yes, yes, of course, that's the situation with the veil. You enter the veil through the bloody gate, and then you head up through the gates of the moon, and the moon is kind of historically always been associated with female gods, Diana and such, and then Artemis. So you head up into the vagina and up through the uterus to the Erie, which is impregnable, the Erie. And so the idea is that heading up into the gates of the moon and into the Erie, you're not just heading into physically that space, you're heading up into Lysa's vagina, into Lysa's uterus, which is not a place where like children can be born. And that this is part of the thing. And then the moon door, yeah, it's symbolically like miscarriages and abortions. Like in the end, like Lysa becomes an abortion. And it sounds really weird, but yeah, no, all the symbolism that you sort of talk about going up, her becoming a stillbirth or a miscarriage or an abortion is like, that's what the moon door is, like things getting forced out, and things failing to come together, failing to conceive. And there's in the theory, there's a whole bunch of stuff about, is the giant's lance like a dick? Well, yeah, obviously the giant's lance is a dick, but like what other things? Like I think the theory goes too far, and it starts like labeling like fallopian tube, and starts labeling ovaries and things like that. I don't necessarily think all of that's there, but yes, like the whole veil story is this whole vagina uterus metaphor. Like, yes, like Catelyn, like walking up with Maya Stone, like, and making this journey up, and then Sansa's birth, like being birthed out in a thematically in the reverse sense, and becoming this new person. Just it Yes, but it's an interesting stuff to read if you have time to check out. I think if you Google like the male and female of the Vale, like Reddit or something, there's a blog on it. But for the most part, yeah, I agree with it. It's but like I say, it goes too far. But it's right for the most part. Like that's definitely what George was doing in those chapters. George loves him some dicks and vagina metaphors. He loves them. He loves them. Storm of dicks, clash of dicks, game of dicks. It's a fucking feast for dicks. It's a dance of dicks. Like it's just dicks and vaginas constantly. Um, I'll probably get like demonetized for that. By the way, of course, my birth scene like got caused some YouTube trouble. Um, the so it's just proving my point the whole time. Like you can show guns and all this sort of and blood and guts and no problem, but the minute you start saying the word fuck or like putting putting a baby on screen, like, oh, and he's got some amniotic fluid on him, oh no, like people flip out. Like it's amazing how many comments I actually got with like, Preston, I was eating. It's like, dude, you're watching Game of Thrones. Like you're watching House of the Dragon. Like you're clicking on a House of the Dragon video. Like what do you think? Like what are you eating for? Like okay. We finally get comic relief in the series, and it's Aemond claiming Vhagar in a scene that How to Train Your Dragons harder than Dany's first ride on the dragon. Justice for Mushroom. I, for the most part, considering it's a little kid getting on a dragon, like I thought the scene was shot fine. I was glad they didn't do a woo. Now this is pod racing kind of thing. Like it was for the most part shot pretty well. And this kind of goes for my whole problem with the episode in general. Is I thought the episode was fine. I would not rank it as one of my favorite. I would not say it's the worst, though there's some things in it that are kind of weird. But I think the fundamental weakness to the episode is it's a bunch of characters that we don't care about doing stuff. So we have this dragon that for the most part has come out of nowhere. And yes, we fans know who Vhagar is, right? But I'm talking like narratively speaking, this is episode 7. We were introduced to this dragon in episode 6. And all of a sudden it's now established as this incredibly important dragon that's going to change the face of the war and worth losing an eye over. This dragon that no one cared about prior to episode 6. A dragon that Laena asked the king about, and he's like, "Wah, I don't know, dragons get lonely." The most powerful fucking nuclear weapon in the fucking world. No one cared about it for half the season, and then all of a sudden we're going to establish, oh, actually no, it's really fucking important, and it's going to change everything. And it does. It should have been that from the beginning, but we're in episode 7, and we're at that point. Like, come on. And this character who was just introduced last episode that had one and a half like scenes that we're supposed to care that motherfucker has now gotten this nuke. That's so rushed. Now, the scene was beautifully shot. Like, I loved like going down to the beach and just the look of Vhagar and the ropes and him getting on, and considering it was a little cringy that he's like grabbing on with a rope and like hanging there for a second. I kind of rolled my eyes in the middle, but for the most part, I thought the scene was fine. It was a good looking dragon, but it's a character. It's two characters that are introduced like so suddenly. Oh, we should really care about Aemond and Vhagar. Like, yeah, we fans care about Aemond and Vhagar, but like this episode, like he was just introduced last episode briefly, and actually Vhagar was essentially introduced last episode briefly. So why should we really care about that kind of stuff? Of course, Alicent would teach her kids that hitting little girls is okay. Yeah. This episode, I just hate everybody. Like, I understand that, like, Daemon and Rhaenyra didn't kill Laenor, but they still killed a random dude. Like, this poor random dude. Yeah. No, they didn't kill Laenor. That was Laenor on the end. So I was joking when the stream started, and I made the joke about burnt bones prove nothing. This gets into Quentin is alive theory. So, A Dance with Dragons begins with Daenerys being brought the charred bones of a young girl and being told that the the culprit is Drogon. And Daenerys sits there and thinks like, well, wait a minute. Like, was it? They could have lied. Burnt bones prove nothing. And she thinks about this twice, actually. Burnt bones prove nothing. She says once burned bones prove nothing, and then she says burnt bones prove nothing. And of course, this is then paralleled because over in the Jon chapter, Mance Rayder is put in a cage and burned. And it turns out that Mance Rayder is not burned because it was really Rattleshirt that was burned, and there was a swap. And so that's how A Dance with Dragons begins. And so when A Dance with Dragons ends, we find a burnt body in the dragon pit, and everybody thinks Quentyn is dying. And everybody's just like, so many people are like, oh, Preston, you're crazy. You're crazy to think that's not Quentyn. Like, even though that the story has established that burnt bones prove nothing. Not to mention just like Bran and Rickon with the tar babies and all the different swaps, the smashed face of Aegon being swapped out for another boy. Like, it's just like the story of Ice and Fire is like somebody gets killed and somebody gets swapped in. And the hero gets swapped out. It's just it's pretty common. So like to say like Quentyn is alive, like there's no proof that Quentyn died. Like there's no proof that Quentyn died. And so it's that body means nothing. It means nothing. It's unrecognizable. So it's obviously when I saw this scene, I was like, oh God, like, did somebody watch the Quentyn is alive thing? Not that there's not plenty of that imagery in Ice and Fire, because there is, but it's just like, when people think about a burnt body being unrecognizable, like you kind of go to Quentyn's, the prince lay 3 days dying. So that was definitely there. And so the weird thing though about it all, of course, is what about Sea Smoke? Like, which is like, I get that they're doing what's. I think it's fun. Like they're doing something very Ice and Fire with the body swap. Okay, that's so Ice and Fire. It's so Quentyn. And then they seeded it with Criston Cole saying like, oh, let's run away together to Essos. And then Laenor gets to do that. And that's very fun. I do like that. That parallel. That's really cool. However, but the same criticism we had for Rhaenyra, like, and Criston Cole asking Rhaenyra to go, she's like, I'm telepathically bonded with it. Well, she doesn't say this in the show, but in the watch we said, Rhaenyra's telepathically bonded with the dragon. Where does the dragon go? Like, Sea Smoke, like, wouldn't he wake up and be like, gotta go and find Laenor? Like, he'd wake up in the morning and be like, and fly out to find Laenor and like circle around their boat and be like, hi, what are you doing? Hi there. Hi. Like, like it's just. And then later when Adam of Hull tries to bond with Sea Smoke, he shouldn't be able to because Laenor's still alive and dragons only have one telepathic bond at once. Yeah, I just don't know how they're gonna do that. I think they're probably just going to ignore it, and that Adam of Hull is going to come in and just mount Sea Smoke, and we're just not going to hear anything of it. And we're just gonna. Now they did seed a little bit here in this episode about Adam of Hull, so Adam of Hull, is this dragon seed that is rumored to be both the bastard of Laenor and rumored to be the bastard of Corlys, and he can ride dragons, and later Corlys wants him to inherit Driftmark over other Valyrians. So, and people kind of wonder, well, why does he want him to be to inherit? And some people say, well, if he's the bastard of Laenor, if he's the bastard of Corlys, then you know, it's kind of like, you know, Daemon Blackfire inheriting or whatever. Um, but here they kind of establish like it doesn't matter, blood doesn't matter, name is what matters. And so Corlys would be the type of character that would want to just have the strongest person that would bring on the Velaryon name. Um, uh, you know, pass on Driftmark. Though it somewhat contradicts the fact that he was completely fine with the Velaryons changing their name to Targaryen when they came upon the throne. Um, Overall thoughts on Aemond's character so far. I think this episode he was rather different than he was last episode. Last episode he was kind of this, you know, you felt bad for him because he was getting picked on, and you know he had this angry entitlement because you know everyone around him is mean and things like that. And but this episode they just make him into a dick. Like it's just you know, coming down all cocky and self-assured, and as people are like, what were you doing, that was our dragon, and then calling people bastards. Granted, like this episode more than kind of any of the episodes was so checkbox. Like they were going through Fire and Blood and being like, okay, did we get this line, did we get this line, did we get this line? So Aemond was saying all the lines from Fire and Blood, which unfortunately those lines kind of, I don't know if they really fit with his personality from last episode. But or maybe they wanted some sort of transformation, like once he rides the dragon he becomes somebody new. He was this insecure kid and then he's not. So it's a bit of a 180 considering like last episode he's scared of Dreamfire, which by the way, like I guess they said that he was. I guess Helena had already mounted Dreamfire because they went back with 3 dragons, and so I was like, that has to be Sunfire, Dreamfire, and Vhagar, right? And I guess Laenor doesn't get invited to the funeral, and I guess they didn't have a funeral for Laenor. By the way, they swapped the funerals in the book. Everybody comes together for Laenor's funeral, and Laena's funeral is kind of the one that no one hears about. Here, it's Laena's funeral. And Laenor, I guess, doesn't get a funeral, or at least people don't go to Laenor's funeral. So, um, so I think they're a little inconsistent with Aemond's character. I think the character that we saw in this episode is the character that we're going to see going forward. But we'll see. You know, I think we all liked our Helena scene. She was even going more ultra than last episode on her prophecies. But I think we're supposed to dislike Aemond. You know, he's a jerk. Yeah, Aemond pushes Targaryen Nazi viewpoints, easily beats up 4 kids, claims a dragon, got a cool scar, has sadistic mom, tries to stab the princess. I can't wait for the God's Eye battle. Yeah. Now I will say that even in the source material, you know, there's not really a good established rivalry between Daemon and Aemond. And considering that the climax of the entire story is the God's Isle battle, they really should have had some scenes of like Aemond and Daemon facing off and like not liking each other. You know, something about him, like, you took my wife's dragon or something, you took my daughter's dragon, like something, you know. And I do think that like George screws up, like he you know, those are 2 characters facing off in an epic battle, and they're not really like rivals, you know. So I mean, if it were Daemon and Otto Hightower like facing off, like that would feel more appropriate, you know. Even Aemond versus like Jace, or Joffrey, like you killed my, you know, you killed my brother kind of stuff, something, you know. But Daemon, like, you killed my wife's son from a previous marriage. Let's battle, you know. So I hope they do something. I hope they really build some tension between Aemond and Daemon, like that, for that. Um, Aemond did nothing wrong. Yeah, he's kind of a dickhead. Now, do I think like he was right in claiming his dragon? Like they've never really established like the rules, so I don't. And George is really messy with where the dragons are and how these people get stuff. So like some dragons appear to be in the dragon pit, and then other dragons seem to be in the dragon mont, which is the volcano on Dragonstone that has lots of caves. And so why certain dragons are left to the dragon pit and other dragons are left to the dragon mont, I do not know. Like there's no explanation. They're just like, well, Vermithor and Silverwing and Grey Ghost and Sheep Stealer and Cannibal, they're in the Dragon Mont. But then these other ones are in the Dragon Pit, which is very convenient for when Jace is like, let's bring in the dragon seeds. We need more dragons. Oh, let's go to the Dragon Mont and claim our dragons. Great. Why weren't those dragons in the Dragon Pit? Why weren't they all in the Dragon Mont? Like, you can try to make arguments about like size or whatever, but it's not really like there's not really some good reasons to it. But you know, so and this whole thing about size, like Balerion the Black Dread was kept in the Dragon Pit after the death of Arya, and then allowing Viserys to ride him. So I don't know where or anything. Yeah, that was a message from my daycare saying that my son has a cold. He does. I sent him to daycare anyway. Let's see. Thoughts on Alicent's Cole relations so far. So Carmine and I actually talked about this a little bit in a podcast we did that it hasn't been released yet. But Emily Carey, was that her name? Carey? Emily Carey, the previous Alicent actress. She commented that a big reason that Rhaenyra and Alicent don't get along is that Alicent was actually in love with Criston Cole and is angry at Rhaenyra for having sex with someone that she was in love with. I don't know if that scene ever got filmed or if that got cut, if that was an early draft or what. But at least in her mind, the Alicent character was in love with Criston Cole. Which does, as we now look at, Olivia Cook's portrayal with him and them spending so much time together, does make you wonder, like, are they having an affair? Like, is she still into him? There was some weird stuff in the argument scene. Like, I don't actually think I think the argument scene was perhaps the weakest part of the episode. I thought the funeral was beautiful. I was just watching the funeral scene in awe, being like, oh my gosh, this is just like so well done. There may have been a little too many stairs. The stairs went on for a little bit long. I liked it at first. I was like, oh, that's a cool stair. That's a cool stair. And then I'm like, yeah, this is going on a little long. And then we get into some, I liked the dragon scene. I liked the set. I don't know, the Daemon Rhaenyra. It was okay. But the argument stuff, I felt like a lot of those lines were forced because of the source material. Fire and Blood has a lot of those lines in there, and what happened, like, who Aemond blamed his brother. Well, that's check. His brother said, look, everybody knows that they're bastards. Check, eye for an eye thing. Check. Question him sharply. Check. Like, that's all there. Like, the weird thing was Alicent commanding Criston Cole to take an eye of Luke, and then she's like, you're sworn to me. First of all, fuck no, you're not. Okay? First of all, fuck no. The Kingsguard is not sworn to you, okay? This is very like Barristan very specifically goes into the rules of the Kingsguard and who they serve. Like they serve the king, and then they can be lent out on assignments to different people. So if the king says, "Okay, you now have to guard this person," doesn't matter who this person is, you can guard them. This gets into there was a lot of argument way back in the days of R plus L equals J, like arguments where it was 90% of the fandom talking about that. A lot of people argued that the three men at the Tower of Joy, the only reason that they would be there was that they were guarding a person that they perceived as king, and that there would be no other explanation. You know, like that. That's why they're not with Viserys, and that Ned specifically said, "Why aren't you with Viserys?" You know, and it's because they're defending the true king. And then in A Dance with Dragons, like Barristan kind of says, like, "No, the king, if a king wants to assign a Kingsguard off somewhere to do something, that they've got that assignment based on the king's word." And they didn't necessarily know that Aerys was dead and things like this, and what was going on. They had an assignment. So, but to like have the king do a command and then have like the queen consort like do a command afterwards that would somehow supersede the king, like no. And luckily it's weird because Cole says as your sworn shield, and then doesn't do anything. So it's like, thank goodness he didn't do anything, because no. But he does weirdly say like as your sworn shield or something, which is a little weird. But so their relationship, that interview now just makes me wonder, like, are they banging? I don't know. Are they banging? By the way, do they need so many more? Like, again, like as if last episode didn't pound into us that Rhaenyra's kids are bastards. Like this episode just went at it more. Like pound. Even Rhaenyra admits it. Like yeah, we got it. Like we don't need, like, make sure there's zero ambiguity, zero at this point. Like, I suppose there's still some slight ambiguity that Criston Cole might be like the father of Jace, but like there is no chance now in the show that Laenor was the father. Everybody admitted it. Like, I've lost sympathy I've had for Rhaenyra. Her and Daemon are cold-blooded murderers. Can't believe they wrote her like that. Ruined her character. Yeah, I think they're expecting the audience to not care that they killed a random. Like, I think the audience would have been... I think they think that the murder of Laenor would be unforgivable. But then when there was a reveal that Laenor was alive, that somehow we would be like, oh, that's perfectly okay. Except they murdered a dude. So it's it's raw. It's really bad. Yeah. I don't have it. I'm trying to think of any characters I like anymore. Like some people might still like Viserys. I guess I like Jace and Luke. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Bela and Rhaena. Like we've got to go to the kids, Helena. Like we've got to go to the kids for anybody that we like, because all of the adults are horrible. Yeah. One of the best dark shooting episodes ever. It was so seeable. Yeah. The only thing that was a little weird was everybody saying, "Hey, you need to go to bed," and it still looked pretty light out. That was the only thing that was kind of weird, but the look of everything, like night, it was just kind of beautiful. The whole like moonlit night, being able to see everything. Guys, please give some F's to our guy Seaspoke, poor Adam as well. Well, maybe it's just going to make Adam of Hall even more of a badass, that he is able to mount a dragon that is bonded to somebody else. That might be it. Quentin is alive, confirmed. I think that somebody saw the dragons. Somebody saw the dragons is my, or somebody saw the videos. I do think somebody saw like some of the Quentin is alive like theories. Like if people are going around and seeing Lemongate, which I think is pretty confirmed that we saw Lemongate, I'm sure somebody saw the Quentin is alive theories and like saw the body swap stuff. Not that there's not plenty of body swap stuff in Ice and Fire, but I think it's just that the fandom like talking about Quentin is alive like brings it to the forefront of the zeitgeist, and that's why I do think that someone saw a Quentin is alive video, or Reddit or something. Green's left with 3 dragons, Aegon, Aemond's, and I think it must be Helena's. Like it's the only thing that makes sense to me. But we never saw Helena like on a dragon or going down to the dragon pit, which was weird. Like, oh, let's bring all the boys down and do your dragon training. But what about Helena? Isn't she riding Dreamfire? Let her play with her bugs. Like they brought all the boys together, right? And then they said like you're the only one that doesn't have a dragon. So I guess that means Helena has one. Unless they really did bring Balon from and then just didn't the fourth kid from Old Town, and he was riding Tessarion or something. My God, I always forget about the Tessarion's like son, Tessarion's rider, but getting it correct because he's just not ever around, and we're all wondering if he was cut from the show because he's so forgettable. It's Daron, of course. Daron. I mean, yeah, unless it was Daron, but like I don't know if Daron is in the show or if he's in Old Town. Both make sense. I love how Corlys always brings up Rhaenyra's birthright being taken away, but doesn't even think about his granddaughters getting Driftmark. yeah, no, that's true. I mean, later on he does select Adam of Hull to be his heir over the girls, which is also pretty shitty. I mean, I guess he just doesn't give a fuck. Like it doesn't really make any sense, right? He's all over the place, like in both book and show, like with his sexism. Like, can women inherit? Is it or not? Like, who should be queen? Who should be king? Yeah, it's not really consistent. You're right though that he's just like that. Yeah, he doesn't make any sense. He doesn't make any sense. Thank you, Saber Gaming Official. Man, I'm so behind. Okay. I don't want to hijack the discussion, but can we hate on Rings of Power Season 1, the origin of the story of Mount Doom later in the stream? Still to dialogue, Gadriel's worst character in TV history. Pop Rock Volcano. First of all, Galadriel is nowhere close to being the worst character in TV history. I mean, come on. There's so many characters. But yeah, maybe we'll talk about Rings of Power later on. That one gay guy did not get buried. So this is the discussion about. So there's this. I've talked about this before about bury your gays trope. And this comes from that gay people on screen are always killed, and they're either killed because there's some sort of like evil subtext that the person is coded gay and then they kill them, which is done all the time. Like say like the villain in The Little Mermaid, or the villain in Commando, or even the villain in The Lion King. Like they're kind of coded gay and then they get killed, so it's either the gay gay characters just killed because they're evil, or they try to go the other way and be like, oh, they're so wonderful and they're so Christ-like and they have to be a martyr in our story. And so, the good gay character is murdered because they're so pure and nice, and everybody has to be angry about it. So like they're always just killing the gays on like either end, and while the gay characters never get to just live. Like, and even when you look at like Game of Thrones, right? Like Loras is killed as a martyr character, right? In that respect, because of his gayness, he was pure, and then he gets murdered, for his gayness, and it's but yeah, Laenor gets to survive, though he doesn't get to be part of the character. He doesn't get to be part of the story. So it's really like keeping him part of the story is really, I think, what they want. What they want is like not for them not to be just like, thrown away as these objects. But yeah, he, I guess it was a way. Like I don't know. I'm fine with the ending. I think it's interesting. It's just makes me hate Rhaenyra for killing that random dude, and I do wonder about Sea Smoke. But I think it's a clever little way of getting rid of Laenor. I'm ready to die on this hill. Speaking Valyrian to each other and to the dragons especially is effing stupid. I mean, I guess there's no real reason for it. I think they're just kind of I think they're stuck in the mindset of like, well, Daenerys knew Valyrian, and Daenerys said the word Dracarys. But you got to remember that like she chose the word Dracarys as a code word by herself. Okay, it's not that like dragons like know like High Valyrian. Like Daenerys specifically chooses Dracarys because it's not going to be a word that someone is going to say randomly. I'm gonna bring this up. Like it's her. I think it's her own personal code word. Not that they understand High Valyrian. Yeah. She said, so I see. Dracarys, all three. I thought... Is it in Clash? Why is it not coming up on my search? I thought... Maybe I'm misremembering or something. I thought it was a code word, and that Jorah asks her like why that was, but it's not coming out on my search when we're doing. Sometimes the search fails, but like, but I thought it was just she chose because it was something that someone wasn't going to say like accidentally, but I may be wrong, but it does just seem really weird that like. Yeah, that they're all that they're all speaking High Valyrian. I mean, Valyrian to each other. Like, keep in mind, like lots of people speak High Valyrian or different forms of it in ESO. So it's not like this like super special secret code, and and it's learned. It's generally it's like Latin. So I'm trying to think like. Would after the fall, like after Latin is no longer spoken, like would an inner circle only speak Latin to each other? I mean, I suppose they do that at the Vatican, still speaking Latin to each other in a small cabal of people. So, I guess I guess I don't really care one way or the other, but it's a lot of effort. Okay. All right. I mean, they're trying to have it be sexy or something. Burnt Bones proved nothing. Quentyn is alive, and the Kingsguard is still super incompetent to know nothing. Where the royal family is not stopping the queen from stabbing the princess, not stopping a brawl in front of the king. It is really weird how like the Kingsguard are like holding back other people. Like it was almost like like school cat fight. Like, everybody hold back, like form a circle. Um, like, and how Alicent gets away with cutting Rhaenyra, I don't know. Like, that's insane. That's really insane. Like, how Alicent got so much power. Like, you're queen consort. You're not, like, it's one thing if, like, if Aegon cut Rhaenyra, then you'd be like, well, it's two children of the king. They're on, Rhaenyra is the heir, but they're on somewhat equal footing. But like the queen consort, I don't know how they gave her so much power. I don't know. And in fact, in the next episode, she seems to be pretty much just ruling, as regent or something, which also doesn't. I mean, why wouldn't I don't know, the Hand or Rhaenyra be acting as regent at that point? Because Rhaenyra is old enough. You wouldn't have the queen consort acting as regent over either the Hand or the heir or things like that. So Alicent having so much power is just, it doesn't sit with me right. And she gets away with more than I thought she would ever get away with in this. Commanding her Kingsguard to like take somebody's eye out and stuff. Like, come on. Do you think they gave Helaena green sight because it'll influence her choices during Blood and Cheese, or just so they can throw in some random foreshadowing? I think it's for random foreshadowing. I don't think it's necessarily for any choices later. Because her choice during Blood and Cheese is not illogical. Like, if you're given it's the same with Sophie's choice. Like, Sophie's choice, she chooses her male child over her female child, and in a sexist world, like, you can understand that, like, or even from like a mother existing in a sexist world, that like one child has a better chance and has more opportunity than the other, and so it's logical for Sophie to choose the male. And so like Helena's choice is logical. Like, she's got two kids. Is she going to choose the elder or the younger? All things being equal. Well, you've put more time into the older child than you have into the younger child. So, it makes sense that you choose the elder child. So I don't know if it'll influence her choice or anything like that. I think I think it's Ghost of High Heart kind of bullshit. Like, I'm just going to throw in a random character to say some random shit for no reason that adds nothing to the story other than some like foreshadowing for the fans to be like, ooh, what does that mean? What does that mean? Like, otherwise Ghost of High Heart has no function, so like, I think Helena's green or prophecies or whatever don't really have any don't have anything either. My SO's Quentin, who brought Vhagar back from Pentos. That's a good that's a good question. There's no reason. I mean, unless he like wants to linger around the dead body or something, like he's just like, oh, maybe he's like a dog and he wants to eat his owner. Like, I guess the only excuse I can give is that he was like still attached to the dead body, or that like, he was lonely and he wanted to follow the other dragons. So he's like, I've been hanging out with Caraxes for 10 years. I guess Caraxes is my only friend. So I'm going to follow Caraxes, even though later I'm going to have a fight to the death against Caraxes, like, so, that's my only is that he followed the other dragons because he was lonely, or he wanted to be around Laena's dead body. But yeah, it doesn't. Why would he go back to who knows? Is Adam of Hull actually Laenor? That'd be quite the twist, right? That some guy shows up later and everybody's like, "Why, you look exactly like Laenor." Well, no, I'm Adam of Hull. Okay. I mean, I suppose it would it would help patch the hole of why all of a sudden uh, Corlys wants Adam of Hull to be his heir, and then and how Adam of Hull could bond with Sea Smoke, but I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they're going to do it because one, it ruins the parallel of the Criston Rhaenyra offer of like living a happy life together. Um, you know, it's too nice of an ending for Laenor for this to be like it's too nice of an ending for Laenor here with Karakori for Laenor to return, but who knows? Who knows what they're gonna do? I think personally they're just gonna have Adam of Hull like show up, ride Sea Smoke, and no one's gonna speak of the bond to Laenor. The Aegon, the third chapter is my favorite in Fire and Blood, and he's a bit sad that the series won't adapt them, except maybe in a rushed epilogue. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, this season was so incredibly rushed um, that maybe they're going to learn the lesson and slow down. This episode was odd in that it felt slow, but at the same time, so many events happened a little too fast. You know, you got a kind of a like a feeling of both at once, too fast and too slow at the same time. Weird. Um, but you never know. Maybe if the show's really successful. I mean, the show is really successful, but maybe they're gonna just keep going with Hour of the Wolf and on to Aegon the Third. There was an interesting thing in the Ryan Condal made a statement in an interview, I think with Elio and Linda, that he asked George for the draft of the next book. And everyone and the fans are like, what does he mean, draft of the next book? And why would Ryan Condal want the draft of the next book? Does he mean wins? Because what relevance is wins to him? Or does he mean Blood and Fire or Fire and Blood Part 2, Blood and Fire? Which would make more sense because there are some issues at the end of Fire and Blood Part 1 that are not resolved, that are rather important, like what happens to mourning, and Bela and Rhaena, stuff with Aegon the Third. How does the final dragon die? There is some like important stuff that happens that would happen at the beginning of Fire and Blood Part 2, Blood and Fire. And so I think that he was referring to that versus wins, about having like, you know, sending me a manuscript of that. Plus I think George can shit out like the beginning of, I think he can shit out Fire and Blood stuff pretty easily versus like actual writing, um, you know, with Winds of Winter. But I think, you know, you never know. If the show's going really well, we may get Aegon the Third. We may. Um, um, oh, Varamir Sixskins shows that telepathic bonds can be overridden. That is true, but Varamir Sixskins is a fucking master. He is a fucking master. So Varamir Sixskins is the second most powerful telepath to ever exist, right? After Bran. So we're talking like, you know, this is a dude that can telepathically control 6 animals at once and wrest a telepathic bond of one animal like from them to him because he's so powerful. Um, so yeah, I mean, could Adam of Hull like overwhelm? Like, you know, maybe it is like over the years, like eventually the telepathic bond between Laenor and Sea Smoke will weaken, and that the dragon can bond again. Man, you know, I guess we never really had it. You know, we've never really had a situation where like even Drogon, like he's not that far from uh from Dany. And I guess Ghost is like fairly far from Jon, but nobody, the bond never like ceases, but they're not that far from each other. But if we're talking like Laenor's all the way living in Essos somewhere, and Sea Smoke is doing shit in Westeros, like maybe one could argue that. So yeah, the dragon connection is like a Bluetooth connection. So it's like goes down. It's like 5 bars, 3 bars, 2 bars, one. It's like 1 bar. It's got like one, like Dany in A Dance with Dragons has like 1 bar. She's like, do I feel Drogon? Am I getting reception? And then all of a sudden, like at the pit, she gets like 2 bars, and like the dragon comes back, and she's like, I've got a connection. And then he comes and gets her. Yeah. Um, yeah, maybe it's something like that. Thank you, Cheyenne. Um, what do you think of the theory that Larys is a green seer? Yeah, there's another one actually that maybe didn't get on here from El Diablo Ortega as well, about Larys as a green seer. He has first men's blood. So I think it's gone. Like I think the first men have the ability to like warg or skin change has been taken a bit far. Uh, I don't think we should just say like anybody with first men blood can like do random shit, because like everyone has first men's blood. Like it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So like the entire continent was filled with first men, and Andals came in and intermarried. And so like all the time you should be having green seers like and people with telepathic abilities like appearing in the story. I think they're going more with like really really pure first men's blood or something wildling. Like when I think of like why the Starks can skin change, like my theory is not because the Starks necessarily have the ability, but because the Flints have the ability. And that the Flints are the Stark children's grandfather is a Flint, and like the and that they've got some wildling blood. They're close to the wall. Some of their daughters are getting stolen by the wildlings and perhaps brought back, coming back. That Mance Rayder talks about how there's a lot more communication and commerce between those that are close to the wall and the wildlings and stuff like this. So I think it's more, like ultra purity of it. Now, the Strongs, are they inbred? Do they have working abilities? Like, yes, possibly. I don't think we don't get much about like where they come from. But this gets into the theory of is Larys warging rats is kind of more interesting in the sense that he's warging rats like as an animal more than anything else. Like we don't really have anything about like where the Strongs come from. They just boast that their descent is from first men. Okay, well everybody's from first men. But still, could he end up with greenseer blood? Like I think probably the Tullys, with the red hair, are signals of that greenseer blood too, or for special blood. So just could he randomly have it? Yes, I think he could randomly have it. Now George had a story called Dark were the tunnels, that is very influential on Ice and Fire, and how things kind of work. In this story, the Earth has descended into nuclear war, and so humanity has gone to the moon, and humanity is on the moon, and they have reached something called bottleneck. Oh, fuck. I keep bringing bottleneck. It's like bottleneck genetic drift. Yeah. So because there's not enough genetic diversity with bottleneck genetic drift, they're not having enough kids. And so the population is stable or even diminishing. And we find this like when you get to the point where there's like 2 panthers left, you know, and their brother and sister, and you like try to produce more kids. Like most of their kids are not going to be genetically viable. So they end up only having like 2 kids. And then those kids have to marry each other and they're not genetically viable and they have like 2 kids. And they call this genetic bottleneck drift or something. So like what George is saying is that the people on the moon that survived need more genetic diversity in order to like continue. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity has gone underground. It's a very long night. And the main character is this completely pale, like Valyrian looking, like Carthene looking like dude who has the ability to skin change rats. And so he's going around like seeing the tunnels with the skin changed rats. And then the humans come down, and what they don't have very much technology, and they need technology because there's like these worms coming up and killing their people. So really like the 2 branches of humanity need each other. Like one has genetic bottleneck and one like needs the technology from, and if they just got together and married, and humanity would survive. And, instead they go down there and they end up accidentally killing each other. And so like I look at Dark where the tunnels, and this is where I got these ideas on like what the others are doing and the nature of the others and why there's not that many others and why they need to steal children because they need genetic diversity to refresh their ranks and stuff like this. And I don't know if I still, because of Game of Thrones and stuff like that, I'm not sure if I still subscribe to it all, but it really made sense to me at the time about like getting more genetic material into your pool because your pool is too small. So long story short, this character like being able to skin change a whole bunch of rats like makes me think of Dark Where the Tunnels. But of course, like none of that's in Fire and Blood, and Dark Where the Tunnels is a pretty obscure story, so I don't know if Ryan Condal like would have known about that. But it makes me think about it. But do I think Larys is skin changing the rats? Yeah, I think it's a good possibility. I think it makes a lot of sense that he's skin changing those rats, and that's why he knows everything, rather than him himself like going around. Or it might just be a metaphor that he is going around in those tunnels, and the rat's like scurried out of the tunnel because he's behind the wall. I don't, it could be something like that. Maynard Plum asked, is there any way Alicent isn't punished for brandishing a weapon and using it on Rhaenyra? No, she's going to be as punished as much as Criston Cole. I mean, it's fucking bonkers. Man, I cannot like they got away with a lot of ridiculousness in that scene. I'm so ready for Larys to be cheese. His talk with Alicent on the boat was all about getting an eye for an eye and the need for discretion. So yes, the eye for an eye is a specific line from Fire and Blood that Cheese speaks. He says that he is when he comes to deal with Helene in the Blood and Cheese incident, he says that he is here as a debt collector, an eye for an eye, a son for a son. So yeah, it's definitely heading that way. That Larys equals cheese theory is looking pretty strong right now. So especially when he says eye for an eye. Now, of course, like the scene was so blunt, eye for an eye. Like in Game of Thrones with the direwolves, like it's at least a little, it's the same situation. Like, but like when Cersei asks for she wants people to like lose a hand, for striking Joffrey, and we're supposed to think of eye for an eye, but this is all, it's all from Fire and Blood. So it's George just being like less subtle with his analogies. Will the bugs tell Helena that Larys is cheese? I guess she's gonna know. I'm very interested in how they're gonna handle the scene, because what I imagine is that the reason that she's kind of nuts is that she already knows the future. So I think it's going to be. I think they're gonna play it like she's gonna be just kind of be more catatonic rather than her being like really off. She got betrothed pretty fast, by the way. I don't, doesn't seem like it's been very long since the last episode, but but yeah, we'll see how they play that. But yeah, she should know about it already, I think. Apparently, Criston Cole has calmed down a lot in the Unseen Decade to have had enough grip on himself to not deck Daemon to tell Alicent he was her protector, not her catspaw. Does he say catspaw? Oh, I have to read that line again, because I know he says like your sworn protector, but he says something. He said something after that, or catspaw. That makes more sense, like for him to refuse like that. I mean, I missed maybe the end of that line, but he is in front of the freaking king. I mean, had he done anything, like her demanding it from him is already like bad enough. Like, but thank goodness he didn't do anything, because that would have just been like the end. Like, come on, he's a king's guard. So Laenor, a non-straight black man, cannot have kids, is drunk all the time, and will abandon his family. His adopted, even if he cares about them, his nieces and his beloved sisters, we saw them, and then he has traumatized with his parents. What the hell? Yeah, I'm trying to think about, like, I think they're kind of establishing. I mean, I admit that like it's really, TV does this a lot, where conflating blood relations and like parental influence. Like, a lot of times, like a protagonist will have a kid that he didn't know about, and then he'll rediscover them like years later, and they're going to form this bond, and they want that parental bond to be the same as if somebody raised the kid. In this case, they're doing the reverse. We're having Laenor, who raised these kids, even if he was somewhat absentee, he's not that absentee. Wouldn't the kids be traumatized by the fact that they're like, dad is gone, and wouldn't he be traumatized by the fact that he'd be like leaving his kids? It is kind of weird in that parental sense. Like, it's it's not how parental bonds work. Like, when you raise somebody for a freaking 10, 12 years or whatever, like, you're gonna be bonded to them. The fact that like Laenor wants to leave and wants to abandon these children that he raised. I mean, even if we say like, oh, he was only there half the time. Oh, can you read this? I don't know if this text real quick. It's just her saying that he's sick, or that he's a little bit sick.
Yeah, he has runny nose.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as long as she doesn't say he's, we got to pick him up. So. Yeah. Well, before she did that, and I like before, when he had a runny nose, and I texted back like, should I come get him? And she was like, no, it's okay. Like, not this time, but okay. Anyway, it's a little weird that he would want to abandon his children. Like, he should be attached to them, and the kids should be like, "Where's our dad?" Like, or where's Laenor? We miss him. Like, they're gonna believe that Laenor died. Like, that's a horrible. Like, even if you're forgiving Rhaenyra for killing a random person, which I'm not, she ordered the deaths of somebody. Rhaenyra is dead to me. She just traumatized her kids with the death of their dad. Like, their kids are going to believe that Laenor is dead. Like, how traumatic. You're gonna put your kids through that so that you can. It's pretty. Wow, that's really crappy. It's really crappy. Really crappy thing to do to your kids. Um, it's a really really horrible thing to do to your kids. Oh man, like she doesn't even bring it up. Like, I can't do that to my kids. They've lost one father. You know, they're gonna lose another. Like, um, another big win for Green Gang. Will Team Black keep coping? I mean, Team Black is you know, they lost Vhagar, but they're the ones with all the dragons. You know, they're the ones with all the dragons. Um, they have all the power, and actually even for through the dance, the Blacks should have won if it weren't for like all sorts of infighting that tears the Blacks apart. But the Blacks are the stronger force from the beginning and all the way through the dance simply because they have more dragons, and they will always have more dragons, and they have more dragons all the way until the end. It's only that there's scheming. It's just scheme after scheme after scheme that tears them apart, whether it be the incident at Storm's End, or whether it be the Tumbleton battles, or whether it be like Nettles and Daemon. It takes so many schemes to take the Blacks down. But the Blacks, I mean, it's essentially gonna, the Blacks should be winning constantly, and they keep having these things tearing them apart. Aemond, 10 years old, is bullied for no dragon, gets a dragon, claps back at said bullies. Wow, what a jerk. Yeah, but it was his older brother's idea. It wasn't really like Jason Luke's idea. Not to mention that the girls didn't do anything. He had no reason to go in and be a sore winner. Like, he claimed a dragon. He should have just been like, oh no. Hold on a second. Text? Should we pick him up? She sent that back. Okay. So she should, he should have been like, yeah, look, I claim this dragon. He shouldn't have been a sore winner and started like saying stuff. He'd just be like, I'm sorry, I claimed the dragon. It was calling to me. I claimed it like your mother did. He should have been respectful. He should have been respectful. He shouldn't have been such a jerk about it. I mean, come on. Let's see. Rhaenys should have helped Laenor fake his death. Yeah, that was pretty shitty what they did to. It's just really shitty to the entire family. Like, it's really shitty to Rhaenys. It's really shitty to Corlys. It's really shitty to the children. It's that they all have to mourn the death of their son, like, in such a violent way, so that you can have this like secret marriage with Daemon. I mean, there's a million other ways to like keep the alliance going. Her being like Rhaenyra being married to, I fail to see her logic. She's like, oh, if like my claim will be seen as more secure if I'm married to Daemon. Like, do you get that? Do you get that claim? Like I to who? Like, yeah, his dragon is helpful, but like, would anyone care that she's married to her uncle? Like, I don't get, like, her logic there doesn't really make any sense. Like, the rest of the kingdom isn't that into incest, so why would they even care about incestuous marriages as like a form of legitimacy? Like, no lord is sitting there going, well, I was going to support Aegon married to his sister Helena, but Rhaenyra is married to her uncle. Yes, yes, that is more legitimate. Like, it's yeah, that's stupid. Yeah. Like, I get it. Like, if you need to pull Daemon in, and this is the only way to pull Daemon in, and Daemon's powerful, and Daemon has a dragon, and Daemon has powerful friends, or maybe, oh, we lost Vhagar. We need another dragon. It's really important that we have a dragon. Let's send off Laenor, who has a dragon. Like you're trading one dragon rider for another dragon rider, and you're threatening your bond to House Velaryon, who has the largest fleet, for Daemon, who has nothing. Oh God, that's really stupid. It's like going through this. It's like you start analyzing it and you're like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Can anyone come up with a good motivation on that? I know it's like I've got a problem. Oh God. At this point, I'm so convinced that Larys is cheese that I'm not even. I'm also convinced that Aemond figures it out. Hence, the Sir Simon Strong stuff later on. Yeah. Let me. So what he's speaking of is that eventually Harrenhal is taken, and then, well, eventually Harrenhal is supposed to be siding with the Blacks, but then Simon Strong is made Castellan and arrives, and I think Aemond takes the castle really easily, or no, maybe it's the other way around. Daemon takes the castle like unopposed. He just flies up with the dragon and is like, okay, we're gonna hand over, and then I think yeah, he was really. Aemond arrives and is really so Simon Strong yields the castle to Daemon really easily because he sees the dragon and gets scared. So Aemond is really upset when he arrives that the castle was turned over to Daemon so quickly, and so he then has a duel with him and kills Simon. So I guess this idea that he just really didn't trust House Strong at all, and so he doesn't trust Larys, and so, like, it's a little unusual that Aemond is so cruel to Sir Simon Strong and all of Simon's children, because all the Strongs end up getting murdered essentially by Aemond. So I guess it's the idea that Vaemond is just done with the Strongs and that he doesn't trust them, and that Larys might be the straw that breaks the camel's back on that. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I just think Larys is looking for everybody to die. I mean, who thinks that Larys actually has, like, Alicent's best interest at heart? Is it possible that Larys does have a clubfoot and having it cut off to hide the fact that someone was killed in his place, similar to Davos? Oh. Yeah, no, that's definitely a possibility as well. Though I think his killer, he has it cut off by Stark. Does Stark cut it off? Then again, would Stark necessarily know what Larry Strong looked like? Or he cuts off his head? I'm trying to remember how Larys dies. I think Stark beheads him. But I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check here in the Hour of the Wolf. Cregan goes. Stark condemned to the death, and so Cregan beheads him, and then he asks for his clubfoot to be removed from the corpse, and then the foot disappears. I mean, it would have to be that Cregan didn't know what he looked like. You know, that he arrived and like some other guy was there. Because Cregan beheads him personally because, you know, Starks have to do that kind of stuff. So the swap would have to happen before Cregan arrives. But, you know, maybe. You know, all these things are open. The let's see here. Down. I'm so behind. Do you plan on doing an updated Maester conspiracy video? And when, if Winds of Winter comes out, how fast do you think you'll read it? When Winds of Winter comes out, I mean, I'm reading it in the first day. Like, I'm not going to stop. And then probably if Winds of Winter comes out, I would do like, you know, chapter analysis and like go chapter and by chapter and do a video on each chapter or something like that, and then get to know the book really, really well. It'll be part of the process. I might even do like, you know, if it were to come out, I might do like a live stream on every single chapter, and then we would all discuss the chapters together just to like get up to speed and really know the book like inside and out. Because that would be a very important thing. As for Maester conspiracy video, I think in the docket for me after the season is over, I'm definitely doing a what makes dragons hatch video. I need to do that, but I do think that and I'm probably going to do a lot of overanalyzing House of the Dragon. But yeah, I think we might get into go back to look at the Maesters again. It'll be interesting to revisit them, to see if there's anything more. Because keep in mind that like when the original Maester video came out, there was no Fire and Blood. It was only Princess and the Queen and Rogue Prince that was doing information based on. So there might be more stuff to discuss with regards to Maester conspiracy and stuff like that. So I think it's a good idea. I think in the docket, probably what makes dragons hatch, and then maybe I could go back to Maester stuff. But I think that's what we're looking at, like the book club, overanalyzing House of the Dragon, what makes dragons hatch. Probably do another Maester conspiracy video, and then what am I forgetting? Like yeah. Let's see here. Think they'll do Hour of the Wolf in the show? I do. I do now because the show is doing pretty well, and I think they want some more seasons out of it. Like, it's risky to all of a sudden be like, oh, we can go back and do Aegon's Conquest. I think it's a much more interesting tale to keep going to the end and see the death of all the dragons and things like that in the reign of Aegon III. So I mean, that's what I would do personally. But then again, you know, who knows? Maybe they'll be dumb and just start like racing through the material, and we'll get through the Dance of the Dragons in second season, and that'll be the end. I don't know, but that's how I would do it. I would do Dance of the Dragons seasons 2 and 3, and then maybe Hour of the Wolf season 4, and then if people are still up for stuff, you know, maybe like Reign of Aegon V for season 5 is what I would do. But I'm not most people. So they might be like, well, we need dragons. We need battles. There's not that much stuff going on in Aegon III's reign. You're like, I guess. But, so I don't know. But I would do that, but who knows? I really thought they were gonna have Stark B plots just so that when Hour of the Wolf happened, they would have Starks. But um, I guess their plan is to introduce Starks during the Pact of Ice and Fire, and then maybe then we would have seated Starks for the Hour of the Wolf. Um, Aemond leaning into Alicent with his freshly stitched eye without even wincing, and Rhaenyra not making a sound when cut. I guess the Targaryens feel no pain in the show. Um, oh my god, yeah, it's a bit unrealistic. Like, just think of like any of you, like say somebody cut a massive cut through your face and you're missing an eye and they've stitched it up. Like, first of all, it's going to be all bandaged and swollen, and you're going to be like on pain medications, and you're just going to be lying in bed wanting to die for days. So when I was in grad school, a friend of mine, we were walking down the street, and a friend of mine, uh, out of nowhere, like this car drove by the street, and this guy with a paintball gun like leaned out of the window with his paintball gun and shot my friend in the face. Yeah, drive-by shooting with a paintball gun. Anyway, paintball hit his eye, detached his retina, and he spent 1 week in the hospital with bandage. They bandaged both eyes because because they were reattaching the retina, and you couldn't have any movement. So he spent a week bandaged blind in the hospital, thinking he was going to lose his eye. And even after it's fixed, like severe vision problems, like I mean, he didn't lose the eye, but a lot of decreased vision. In this like random horrible like scene, like situation. It was like a horrible experience. And that's like a 25-year-old man like dealing with it. Could you imagine like a child? Like, it's complete, like Aemond's reaction is completely unrealistic. Like, no child would take it like that. And I granted there's book material, like he's got to say like, oh, I got the dragon, so it was a fine trade. Like, no one's fucking like, no one's like gonna be fine with that. Like, it's stupid. It's stupid for George to put it in Fire and Blood. It's stupid in the show. No child would ever be like that. But or at least wouldn't deliver the line like that. So. But you're right. Like, what's with these wounds and what's with these healing ability, these healing factors? Um, they are. Oh yeah, we're back. I'm way behind. How do you find correct genetic bottleneck? Outbreeding. Helena approves insects can survive dragons. Um, I don't. I guess when she was smashing her bugs inside the shells. I'm not sure on that one. Um, this is a very funny comment. Maybe Criston Cole vouched for Alicent. How did Alicent get away with like all the fucking like crazy shit she did in this episode? Oh well, Criston Cole vouched for her. Oh okay. That is. I guess I missed the line. Not your cat's paw. I have to rewatch. But yeah, I mean, he used the word cat's paw with the cat's paw dagger. That's something. Um. – the the ca- weird weird discussion about like black people and where they are. Like it all depends on like, I may be wrong. I thought sub-Saharan African population was genetically different from Northern Africa's. And then people started talking about Berbers and um, uh, blonde, light-skinned Berbers doesn't prove anything. Here's the thing about about they're light-skinned Africans. Here's the thing about like Americans and even like Western Europeans, like thinking about race and how it doesn't like our concepts of race in America are pretty stark, um, because for the most part Americans descend from white Americans descend from Irish and English and Germans and Scandinavians, for the most part. Yes, there's some Italians and people from all over, but like the bulk of white Americans is German. And the people that come from then we have black people, and black people for the bulk of them come from Ghana and Senegal, and so these were places that were pretty far apart, and so we have very different looking peoples. And so we think about race, we say, oh, white people and black people and stuff like that. But you got to remember, like in the Middle East, people have been mixing around for a long time. And so when you use these terms like black and white, like were these people black? Were the Berbers black? Were the Egyptians black? Were the Nubians black? It like one, like it doesn't matter, but two, like the implications are different. So I'm going on a tangent here, but I do think it's important. So I want to talk about the play Othello. So Shakespeare talks about Moors a bit in his plays, and he occasionally calls them black. And when we do Othello in America, we often have Othello played by a black American guy, but he was a Moor, and one could say that the Moors probably didn't look like people descended from slaves who came from Ghana and Senegal. They did not look like them, but also the social implications are different. It's a different structure. So like when you say black American, we assume someone who is descendant from slaves. And with that comes a whole slew of history of being discriminated against, of and how that affects how white people and black people in America like treat each other. Moors in Venice, you're talking about a very like the conquerors coming in and ruling. And so the relationship between Iago and Othello is fundamentally different than like when portraying it with a black American and a white American. You're creating, it's a completely different like notion, because like how white Americans perceive black Americans perceive white Americans is fundamentally different from how like an Italian Venetian would look upon a Moor. Completely, utterly different situation. And so I often think it's quite wrong thematically to portray Othello as a black American. So I mean, obviously everybody can do their own little Shakespeare interpretation, but I think it's kind of missing the point. Now bringing this back to Ice and Fire, people are making these big deals about like white people and black people and all of this kind of stuff. And again, it doesn't matter in Westeros because they don't have a history of slavery. And so like, the Maester being black, like doesn't change, like it doesn't have the same effect like as that kind of thing would be in even America. Like even in America, if having a show and having a black doctor like telling white people like what they should do, even a simple scene like that, is filled with racial implications and history and all sorts of stuff. While like having a black maester in Westeros does nothing. Like it does nothing other than the fact that he might be foreign, that he might be foreign born. Like, okay, that might be something. But there's not the same class history implications in the show. So like it doesn't mean anything. So like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's black people in Westeros because they don't have a history of slavery based on race like we do in America and things like that. So it's but yeah, we're Berbers black? Who knows? Like I've been to southern Morocco and I've looked at Berbers. They they certainly don't look like black Americans from Ghana or Senegal. Like they look different. I've been to places in the Middle East where people look African. Like I've been in a classroom with Palestinian children where a person that looked African is sitting next to a blonde Palestinian, and they're both Palestinians because the Middle East is a big melting pot. But it's like when we apply our notions of black and white and our concepts of race on other periods of history and geography and other countries, it's misplaced. Like white Americans, black Americans apply to white Americans and black Americans. Like, like it doesn't, like even if I'm saying like, oh, there's this African guy in Australia and he's black and Australians are white. Well, it's a completely different situation. Like Australia didn't have a history of black slavery, like it's not the same. But so, but yeah, what people were in North Africa, they were all over. I mean, you had Phoenicians, in Carthage, you have Berbers, all sorts of different tribes. You have wars and trade going up and down. You have Vandals who came down, Germans who came down into North Africa. You've got so many things going on that it just doesn't fucking, it's assigning race to people in North Africa or the Middle East it's a fool's errand because you're not going to be able to do it. You're just not going to be able to do it. People are so mixed up, and even if you did, it doesn't matter because you're applying American concepts of race on them, So anyway, that was a long explanation on and jumbled. How soon after Laenor's death do you think that? Oh, Carmine is here finally. Hello. You there?
Yeah, sorry about that. I just finished uploading my videos. I caught the tail end of your rant here. Your homie Joe Rogan, even though he's my homie, he made a very good
Joe
point.
Rogan thing.
What?
I saw the Joe Rogan thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So he makes a very good point. He didn't make a good point, and then he made a good point. The point that he made that wasn't good was, that the time skip sucks and blah 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 blah. Which okay, yeah. But he did make a good point. They are going to have to explain what happened to all the black people in the original show.
I mean, they're clearly just going to die in the dance.
All of them?
House Velaryon? Yeah.
No, like it's very clear that there are other black people who aren't members of House Velaryon.
Well, we see the Maester Orwyle, and
who, by the way, I know we haven't gotten to like
we saw like an Asian handmaid, I think, at one point.
We need to finish Fire and Blood. Orwyle has the funniest story of any side character in Ice and Fire.
I mean, I don't think it needs much explanation. I mean, there's not that many of them.
You think so?
They're just gonna die. Here's some things like. China was filled with white Russians after when communism took over in Russia. So in 1917, Moscow falls to the communists, and then Eastern Russia didn't fall until a little bit later. So we talk about the Red Russians and the White Russians are two sects, essentially. The White Russians being, loyalists to the crown, and the Red Russians being the communists. And so at first, a lot of the Red Russians went east, went to Vladivostok. And then eventually Vladivostok falls, and a lot of the White Russians go into China. And so Shanghai, for instance, had a very large White Russian population for quite a while. However, eventually the Japanese come in and take over, and they put them in internment camps, and a lot of them just ended up dying in those camps, or were shipped back to Russia, and where they were executed by the Red Russians and things like this. So after World War II, the White Russians were all gone from Shanghai. But, China had a bunch of white people in it, and then they didn't. So it's like, same thing can happen. I mean, there's going to be a fucking
I don't think
war.
the average casual will dig that deep into it. They are going to wonder, because I've already seen a lot of people say, so in episode 5, when the Valerians come into the hall, most of their entourage are black.
Mm-hmm,
and I saw a lot of people say, damn, is that where all the black people in the show have been? All on this one small island? And kind of, yeah. They have a point. Yeah. When we get into Game of Thrones, they have to kind of answer, where are all the black people in Westeros?
But Joe Rogan was really stupid, because he's like, because they were like, oh, well, at first they're like, were there any black people in the show before? And he's like, no. And I'm just sitting there going, oh, fuck. Like listing all of the black people in the show in my head. Like, I'm just oh my God. Like,
Preston, all the black people that were in the show were not Westerosi. You had...
That's true, they were not Westerosi, but there was a Valyrian. There was a Valyrian black person.
I get maybe the show has kind of established, if Salvador San does not have the white hair and the purple eyes.
Yeah, he doesn't have the white hair, but he is a Valyrian character from Lice. So
what happened to the purple eyes? By the way, I thought that was like going to be a thing they corrected.
Apparently not. No. Also, not yet a Targaryen with golden hair, which is I guess we're never going to get that. They want everyone to have platinum blonde.
Have you addressed the whole situation of Laenor and how that doesn't make any sense because sea smoke?
Yeah, we talked about that. So a lot of people are like, maybe he's Adam of Hull, and then we had some jokes that maybe it's a bit. Well, we actually talked about it a bit, how like, telepathic bonds can be broken. Varamir Sixskins wrests some animals from other telepaths, and that perhaps the telepathy between dragons is like a Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi connection, and that like Dany in A Dance with Dragons had like 1 bar, and then she got like 2 bars like during the dragon pit or the fighting pit scene, and that's why Drogon came back. And so like Laenor's like telepathic bond is like just out of range, and so like the dragon's gonna be like, oh, but I don't know why Sea Smoke wouldn't follow him, because Vhagar follows Laena's dead body to Driftmark. So you'd think that like Sea Smoke's been bonded to Laenor since its birth. Like, he knows no one else except for Laenor his entire life. Unlike Vhagar, who is just fucking claimed, and like 10 years of his 200 years, 10 years of his 100 years of existence. Like, you could claim that like Vhagar doesn't give a shit about Laena. I can break my bond. I've had a bunch of riders, but like Sea Smoke, he's never known anybody but Laenor. So some people are like, maybe Laenor is secretly Adam of Hull, but that kind of ruins his whole story at the end, right?
I think I have an idea of how they're going to incorporate Laenor back into the story.
Oh, okay.
So remember, and for those of you who don't know, Preston and I were doing the Fire and Blood history book. We have to finish, and I promise we'll do this after this season. But remember, one of Rhaenyra's younger kids, I believe Viserys too, he, as a kid, is caught up in like a fleet battle, and then he ends up in Essos. I think this is how Laenor comes back into the story, because how do you explain a kid surviving in Essos by himself? I think it's Laenor who takes control of the situation in Essos and brings him back.
Yeah. That's a good idea. This still, though, it just makes me like continue to think like, man, we should have just had a Lyseni B plot. A Lyseni B plot would have been great, you know. Because also we could have like had Massaria go back to Lys or something, follow her, all sorts of stuff. Because when she shows up again, we're gonna be like, wait, where have you fucking been for like?
Oh, she is gonna show up again.
Of course she is. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just
that's gonna
silly. Happen. How soon after Laenor's death do you think Daemon and Rhaenyra's marriage happened? It felt a little quick. A secret wedding? It was small. I mean, it felt like it was the next freaking day. But, you know, realistically, you have to have like an official royal mourning period. I'm surprised there wasn't a second wedding. I mean, it wasn't second funeral for Laenor. I guess just after Laena's funeral went bad, they decided not to go back. Now, keep in mind, in the source material, Laenor's funeral is the one that everything happens at, not Laena's funeral. So because they swapped everything to Laena's funeral, now why is no one doing anything for Laenor? I guess things are just, you know, irreparably damaged or something. But yeah, the marriage felt small, felt quick. You'd think people would be very insulted. I don't think Rhaenyra's action makes any sense. Now that we've so a little while ago on stream, I was like somebody asked about Rhaenyra's choice on why she was marrying Daemon, and once I broke it down, it makes no sense. So she claims her reasoning is that it's going to strengthen her claim. Can you think of any reason why her marrying Daemon would strengthen her claim?
Targaryens.
Does anyone care about that? I mean, she's married to a Velaryon, and the Velaryons have a huge fleet and dragons. Like, doesn't she risk alienating House Velaryon?
I think that's going to... So I just did the episode 8 preview. I think that's going to be remedied next episode, because a minor plot point in the books with Aemond is actually being like blown up a little bit in the next episode. Did you see the preview?
I mean, I saw that Vaemon's in it. I assume that it's going to be, you know, Vaemond dying for his treason.
I'm assuming that's what it's going to be as well, yeah. But they're blowing up the entire episode's called the Lord of the Tides. So I'm assuming they're going to make him somewhat of a major antagonist, and maybe Rhaenyra taking him out will help, you know, mend
right.
ties.
So Corlys is going to go back to the Stepstones. So Vaemond will be Castellan, and then he'll probably say he probably wants to be Lord after Corlys. I'm just guessing that he's going to want to be Lord after Corlys dies, or if Corlys dies in war. And then
that was him, right? During the funeral, who was clearly making it known that Valyrian blood. That felt very George, by the way. Valyrian,
it was a beautiful
Valyrian
ceremony. I assume was that Vaemond doing the ceremony? It was a beautiful ceremony. I thought it was. Yeah.
If I get this wrong, I'm such an asshole.
Because they look right. Because I mean, the characters look. If it's a priest and not Vaemond, like.
Yes, it's Aemond.
Okay, it's tough when somebody has a beard, and you can't really tell what somebody looks like because they've got a big beard. It's not. Yeah, it's not the whole like Carmine's like, I'm gonna feel bad, with the whole thinking of everybody of a different race looks the same kind of thing. But no, that's what Carmine was talking about. Even though Carmine's half black,
I don't look it though. I promise you. But no. Yeah, I think that's going to be the story, is that Rhaenyra is going to mend ties between the Velaryons by having Vaemond taken care of. And it also looks like Vaemond will be in King's Landing, likely setting up an alliance with Otto, because I'm assuming Corlys going back to the Stepstones was something that the High Towers concocted to reduce Rhaenyra's power.
What did you think of that? What did you think of that stupid Otto praising his daughter scene at the end? Seemed very not Otto.
It's been 10 years. Give him a break.
I guess.
He's very salty.
It's like Alicent acts like a crazy psychopath that nearly gets herself killed, should have been killed for everything that she did. And then Otto comes in and he's like, wow, that was really freaking great. Like, you what? I've never seen you so dedicated. You're dedicated? What are you? I've been having sex with the Crypt Keeper for fucking like 15 years. I've birthed 4 creepy kids. I'm not dedicated? Like, fuck you.
I wish we could have seen this. I wish you could have had a scene of Viserys actually reinstating Otto as hand, because or at least Alicent convincing Viserys that feels
right,
like a deleted
or
scene.
like Viserys talking to Otto and being like, "Well, you're back," and like, how do you feel about that? I was
He's
getting
just
really good.
back.
I was getting really good advice from this guy Larry Strong, and then he was murdered. But and then he died in a horrible accident or fire or / murder. And yes, I got rid of you because I thought you were corrupt, but now you're back.
Did he just kind of forget that Otto was probably still corrupt?
Yes,
like,
they should have had. They
so?
should have had like a reconciliation scene or something between them. Who handled the blood for blood scene best or worst? Robert or Viserys? Cersei or Alicent? Obviously Rhaenyra outperformed Ned. Goes without saying. Yeah, this is comparing the eye for an eye to like the dire wolves and things like that. I think Robert's performance in that direwolf scene was really good and believable. Like he just made it so quick. Like he's just like, no, what? No, this is what we're doing. We're done. And then the scene's over. This was like, stop this. 5 minutes later, stop this. Another line from the book. Stop this. Come on. Like, he's the king. No one's stopping it. I do think the scene dragged when it should have been over. Like, it escalated, and so I do prefer Robert, the actor playing Robert, and his dealing with the direwolves. I think it felt true, and they toned down, how things were said, and like, Cersei's tone. Lena Headey really killed it when she was just like, she kind of said like a flippant. Hers came off more of like a flippant remark, like that could be versus like a command, like, I command you to do this, versus like, well, really, she should lose a hand, or the other direwolf should die. So yeah, I prefer Game of Thrones season 1 in this respect. I don't know, Carmine, what do you think?
What's this in regards to Alicent's?
So the two scenes are paralleled. The eye for an eye in this episode with Alicent and the king, and what do we do now that one child has been wounded and another child needs, should another child be wounded, and things like this. This parallels Cersei and Robert and Ned and the direwolf situation at Derry in season 1. And which scene did you like better?
I like this one a lot better. It's just more crazy. It's just more, I don't know. Like, I just love the crazy family drama. I also love Cole here, because did you notice how when Cole goes to intercept Alicent, or maybe like the Kingsguard move in to restrain him?
Yeah.
And someone said, who said I'm not a cat's paw? Because I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear it either, but everyone keeps saying, like, he said, I'm your sworn shield, not a cat's paw. I only heard as your sworn shield. So he might have
it
mumbled.
right here.
And I had subtitles on the whole time, so I don't know how I missed it, but I'll rewatch it. But I mean, it's a good line. I'm not your cat's paw, considering the dagger. But I don't know. I'll have to rewatch it. Somehow I missed it and you missed it. I don't know. Maybe we watch
it real
versions.
quick. I can put it on real quick in the.
Yeah. Why don't you check? Why don't you check while I answer some super chats here? It would be interesting if Helena knows the future and then picks the kid, knowing that they're going to choose the other. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. That would be. I guess if she likes the younger kid better, and she purposely picks the older kid, knowing that they're going to kill the older kid. Um,
She says, "You are sworn to me," and he corrects her as your protector, my queen, and that's it. He doesn't say anything else. I don't
huh.
hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not there.
As your protector. Okay. Yeah. Now, I mean, the line makes sense now that you retell it. Like when he said like as your protector or as your sworn shield, like I at first interpreted it incorrectly, like I am I have to do this as your sworn shield, and it's more like I have this role, like this is my role as your sworn shield. Which the line makes sense, but yeah, he didn't say so he doesn't say cast spell. I don't know where that came from. I don't know why people are saying
I
that.
took it as he's correcting her. Like, you're sworn to me to do what I say, and he goes, as your protector, not your
Yeah,
thug.
I think you're
That's how I took
correct.
it.
I think you're correct. The first time I heard it, I misinterpreted it. Like I was like, he's going in because he's like, as your sworn shield, and it's like what? Like he meant as your sworn shield. Like
Did you notice
um,
how, like, throughout the entire funeral, Alicent and Christian Cole are looking at Rhaenyra like she's covered in shit? Like, they're giving her like this look of disgust throughout the entire time. Like, why? Like,
yeah,
why?
these people. Everybody was really shitty at this funeral. They're all like all
What?
horrible people. Like all horrible people. Like so much planning and scheming and yawning and fucking and just all horrible people.
Oh, and this is one of those moments. If you didn't pay attention, you missed it. Alicent, I guess, in the several days or maybe weeks it's been, has eloped Aegon and Helena.
Yeah, or betrothed them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Helena is riding Dreamfire at this point, because 3 dragons left. So,
Right.
though I don't know why Helena wasn't brought to the Dragon Pit for lessons with everybody else, but I don't know. I'm still going to harp. Laenor's mom and dad don't know, and are sad. And again, Lena's kids. Obviously, from what we saw, Daemon's not going to care about them. Why can't Laenor tell Jace and company that he loves them, no matter the rumors, leaves the story? Yeah, it's true. I think they did a disservice about the parental roles, in all of this. Like, Laenor has feelings for his children. He raised, or his adopted children, whatever you want to call them, his children. And then he and yet here he just like they deal with it with him telling Rhaenyra that, oh yeah, no, I like them, they're fine. But then he decides to abandon them. And so it's all a little weird. And why Rhaenyra would torture her own children, making them believe that Laenor died. That's really cruel to do that to your own kids. The trauma that they're going to feel.
This is different in the books, right? Someone was asking because
Mhm.
Laenor in the books is confirmed dead, and
Yeah.
this is So it's very weird that the showrunners are making this decision, because now Laenor is essentially becoming like Gendry in the sense. Because remember, I think it was in season 3 where Gendry goes back to Dragonstone. Season 3 or 4, where Gendry goes back to Dragonstone and then has the leeches on him, and then Melisandre wants to sacrifice him, and Davos. Okay, so for what, 3 to 4 seasons, Gendry is like sidelined.
Yeah.
And we're all waiting for him to come back. It was a meme on my channel where I just had Gendry appear on the side.
But here they gave Laenor a happily ever after. I mean, they gave him the happily ever after. Like, he gets to live the Rhaenyra Criston Cole. They're paralleling it with Criston Cole offer to Rhaenyra. Criston Cole says, "Run off with me to Essos and live this adventurous life." And she's like, "I can't do that." And then Laenor gets to live that life. He gets to run off to Essos and live happily ever after.
With a shaved head forever.
with a shaved head forever. Hey,
Yeah. I mean,
there's worse things than to lose your hair.
it's true. But no, Preston, this is Game of Thrones Ice and Fire. Nobody gets a happy ending.
Nobody gets a happy
Nobody.
ending except for Dario.
Who gets to be king of Marine.
Peace and prosperity for Dario.
And Bronn.
Yeah, Braun does fine,
And Sam.
I guess John too. But
John.
and
Arya. Sansa. Sweet Robin ends up
Sweet
like
Robin.
he's riding pretty throughout the entire show.
I know. Pretty good. Preston, what happened to Gilbert's Kraken? Didn't it fight? It fought a Star Destroyer and got killed. I'm trying to remember at the end. I think at the end of I think Gilbert dies, and I forget if the Gilbert's Kraken. There was a fight between the Kraken and the Star Destroyer, but I forget if the Kraken ends up dying. I know that at least two of his Krakens die. I know at least that because he's super arrogant and like for some reason wants to attack the wrong castle or something, and Jikwi tells him not to. We're talking like Game of Thrones watch season 8. Got to go back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Kraken Star Destroyer. What? What is
Yeah. I know. Yeah, it's pretty. There was a lot of crazy stuff that happened off screen.
Do you have your own lore for your fucking channel here with like all these characters and shit?
Oh yeah, and it's fairly consistent actually. It's on where things go. So right, yeah, no, Chad Summertell's universe kind of like goes on and builds on itself, and it's fairly consistent.
You know what's going to happen in very soon then, now that you said that? Someone's going to make a Wikipedia of your channel's lore, and they're going to include all this information down.
Yeah. Now, what was no, I think at the end, let's see. Gilbert, I'm trying to think. Season 7, Gilbert and Jikwi find out that they're the same person and have sex with themselves. Yeah, there's a lot of lore to it. Hypothetical: someone wins the lottery, pays George R. R. Martin to spend an hour watching your vids. Which vids would you choose for him to see? I would want him to see my the ones I'm most proud of would probably be. I would want him to see Purple Wedding. I would want him to see Quentin is Alive. I would want him to see maybe Frey and the Snow. Maybe it'd be interesting for him to see like the genetics of dragons in war, or something like that. But maybe I think something like that. I don't know if he would really like even something like the Night's Watch. There's parts of it where it might go too far that maybe I wouldn't want him to see. But I think something like Quentin is Alive, the Purple Wedding, Frey and the Snow. Those would be fun for him to see. But who knows? He'd probably chuckle because I'd probably have some things right and some things would be like out of fucking nowhere and be bonkers. So. Is Seasmoke going to choose a new rider even if Laenor is still alive? Will he die later on? Will he throw rocks at him till he finally steps forward? I personally think they're just going to have Adam of Hull come in and bond with Seasmoke like nothing, like just forget about Laenor. I personally think they gave Laenor a happily ever after. Carmine seems to think Laenor is going to return. So.
It's like Gendry. He has to return. He just can't go off screen, and that's it.
Oh, Helena said the Targaryens are making cloth dragons. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I remember the stuff on the spools of thread, like threads of black and threads of green. So that's Interesting idea that they're all cloth dragons. They're all Mummer's dragons. Um, yeah, I wonder if he's referencing that. Um, I'm sorry, but the fight with the kids was so funny. Huh. I don't know if I found it funny. Did you guys funny? Did Carmine, you find it funny?
This fucking dude like 1v4 like all these.
I mean, it is true. The kid does 1v4. But
All
he's
these
all
little
hopped
kids.
up and confident with that dragon, you know. Plus, like we established that, like when you've got a telepathic link, you can Hulk out, right? Like John hulks out because he has a telepathic link with uh, with Ghost. So maybe Laenor like gets to Hulk out, and
Who else does it? Because it was John versus Iron Emmett, right?
yeah, John versus Iron Emmett. He hulks out in Game of Thrones as well, where though it's not as obvious. But Alistair calls him a bastard, and he jumps across the table, trying like he pulls out a dagger out of nowhere, jumps across the table, and it takes like four of his friends, including Gren, to like hold him back, and then he loses time, and he's in you know, and so it's so he does Hulk out at least twice. So he, you know, but he's got that ability.
But who
So
else in the books hulks out because of the connection?
uh hulking out, I guess nobody. I can't think of anybody else. Um I'm trying to think of any time like Arya gets super strength. Rickon Rickon X Wild. So it's like they get telepathic, you know, specific with strength though. Bran, I don't know if he ever gets super strength. Um Maybe Hodor when he's opening the door, but I think it's just implied that Hodor is really strong. You know, maybe some sort of connection with Bran being able to open that door. Dany, she can ride really well. I don't know if she ever gains super strength at any time. Like she becomes like confident. So maybe he just gains like confidence and um, you know, a little bit of strength or something. But yeah, he was freaking way because Jace is the same age as him, right? Roughly. So he should, you know,
Uh, it doesn't matter if Jace is the same age because Aemond, if you saw the preview, holy shit, this dude
yeah.
grows the fuck up. He shoots up.
I would love to see a scene of Laenor throwing rocks at Sea Smoke, telling him to forget about him. Go on, go on. You know, like Arya with her direwolf. Like, don't follow me. Laenor couldn't even sire one child, and Rhaenyra couldn't find a convincing surrogate, and Corlys had to accept Jace. Rhaenys will think she lost both her children so soon. Disrespect those to House Velaryon. Right. It's they didn't need like they I already thought they heavy-handed the bastard thing last episode. They didn't need to reaffirm it now. Like so last episode we already had that everybody like they have a different hair color. So already the audience is going to think, "Huh, I wonder if they're bastards." Everybody thinks they're bastards. Harwin is staring at Rhaenyra like, "I fucked you so many times over." Like everybody like it's and then Laenor is like, "Yeah, you know, pretty much admits they're bastards." He's like, "Yeah, rumors." Um, and then we've got the line at the end with Jace being like, "Is he my father?" And she's like, "Only Targaryen." So it's like you hammered it, hammered it, hammered it, hammered it, hammered it. And then this episode, we're like, "Oh, let's add another scene with Rhaenys and Corlys talking about it, and then another scene where Rhaenyra confirms it with Daemon about how like you know they didn't achieve it. Like did we need that? Did we like? There's so many things you could have added. Children mourning their father, or like Laenor saying goodbye to his children, or you know, so many little things like that that could have been added. You know, rather than these scenes like pounding in like the fact that everybody thinks they're bastards. Yeah, we get it. But yeah, they're super. I'm sorry, this was the question. I didn't put it up. But but it's just so like what Rhaenyra does, like one, like murdering somebody, and then two, like risking her relationship with House Velaryon. Especially if it doesn't go right. Like imagine if they didn't pull it off. Like, like the fire only like burns off half the guy's face, or like something goes
Wait,
wrong. Like
they kill an innocent person.
They kill an innocent person, yeah.
And it has to be someone that matches his skin tone.
Well, I mean, they threw him in the fire, but yeah, it's like some Velaryon, probably some third cousin or something.
They burn like the upper half of his body, but they're gonna like undress him and like prepare funeral rites and all that stuff and put him in like a. So I mean, it has to be someone.
The thing is, Laenor's kind of unique in that he's mulatto, and they didn't kill. They didn't kill a mulatto guy, but. It's just it's just dumb, and it's just so cruel to do to Jace and Luke, to have them think that they've lost like their father, even if they think like, oh, Harwin is our real father, this other guy was still their father, like it's just this is a bad plan. It was a really fucking bad plan.
Rhaenyra is a bad politician. Nobody.
Oh my god, she's so reckless. She's so reckless. Like some like Carmine and I were talking about this yesterday, and was it in our podcast where we're talking about like the guy who was like, why are all the male characters subservient and goofballs and like evil, and the female characters are like cunning and domineering? It's like the female characters are the most reckless idiots. Like if you're looking to House of the Dragon as an example of the women being great characters and the men being bad characters, that you're not finding it. Like this person was like so freaking paranoid. Like the female characters at House of the Dragon are horrible. They're all horrible. Except for, I mean, Rhaenys is fine. I'm fine with Rhaenys. I'm fine with Helena now.
Helena is nice. She must be protected.
But Alicent and Rhaenyra are dreadful human beings. They were dreadful human beings when they were young. They're dreadful human beings now that they're old. Like, they're dumb, reckless
real
idiots.
Quick, I have to ask you, in regards to, because someone asked this question, in regards to them trying to consummate the marriage. Now, how do you define that? So does he, I'm going to get graphic here, so I apologize to the audience. Does he have to put his penis inside her and then stick it out and that's it? They're done for like a second and that's it? Or does he have to like actually, get her pregnant?
I mean, I think they were saying that, they did have sex to the point where he ejaculated, but it just didn't take because they didn't do it that much.
It's funny because I actually, when I was younger, I had my buddy Chris. He was very gay, super gay. I asked him, like, so you ever tried with a woman? He goes, yeah, I did. It just like the moment I looked at her naked, I just could not get a hard on. I just was not interested. It was kind of gross to me. I'm like, oh really? Oh shit. So I'm surprised he even got a hard on.
I mean, you can close your eyes and imagine something else. I mean, it's not.
Marjorie tries that with Renly. Remember, she's like, I can turn around and you can pretend like. So
yeah, I mean, this is part of an Arrested Development, like the Bluth family. Oh shit! Like my brain clogged. This is what happens when you have kids. Your brain just goes away. But but the gay guy in Arrested Development has a whole thing about how, like, when a man and a woman love each other, and if a man, like, concentrates really hard, he can get an erection. And, like, so, he's, first of all, like, people can perform. I mean, all the people that go to jail, like, most people, a lot of these people that go to jail, like, wouldn't be gay on the outside, but are just like, I'm horny. I'm just gonna have sex with people. You know,
Laenor's
like
not really in jail, kinda, not really.
but when I mean, you're right that one thing going against him is the fact that he does have people that he's actually attracted to that he's having sex with. If he were presented with nothing, he'd probably be able to do it more often because he'd just be like horny, and he'd be able to think about something else. But
Interesting enough, Mushroom actually has a way to remedy this because in the Fire and Blood history book, Mushroom says how Rhaenyra would sometimes join Joffrey Lonmouth and Laenor
yeah,
on their sexcapades. So you could, like them saying they tried. I don't know, man. Why couldn't you have
yeah. I
like
mean, but he could be having, he could be like, they should just have like, oh, some dude was blowing Laenor, and then right before he climaxes, he sticks it in Rhaenyra. That kind of stuff. It's all possible. It's not that
it
hard.
is? It's really not.
Um, you know, um, if you were the head of a great house, who would you support, the blacks or the greens? Realistically, looking at the pieces on the ground, the blacks have the most dragons. They seem like they're going to win. And like I say, throughout the dance, the blacks should win at every moment. They start with the most dragons, they end with the most dragons. It's just that there's a lot of scheming that causes their plans to fall apart. But I would definitely support the blacks. Just because I would support the winners. I mean, I do think that Rhaenyra has a better claim, but considering that she was, literally named by the king as the heir. But I think, being self-interested, I'd be like, I don't know. It looks like the blacks are going to win. They've got twice as many dragons. Like, come on. So I'd probably be wrong, and my house would be made extinct, like Lord Coswell, but or not. I guess he didn't go to extinct, but probably something bad would happen. But like looking at the pieces on the ground, I'd be like, well, she's got more dragons. She's probably going to win. But that's how I'd play it. The burnt body was a grown man. I mean, Laenor was a grown man, but one Dune movie is better than all Star Wars media? No. I mean, better than Empire Strikes Back? No. Dune movie's beautiful and all, but it was kind of boring. So come on. I wonder who the Green Seer is at this time. Oh, like who's in the tree? Yeah, I mean, considering it's so long until Game of Thrones, you feel like it wouldn't be the mentor that the three-eyed raven that Bran saw. Maybe just be a child of the forest or something. So
an old sage child of the forest.
I'd pay money for George to watch the Pig Letter video. Preston does not condone kidnapping. Please do not kidnap George R. R. Martin. Late to the party, but I'm starting to think that this is all the king's fault now. He makes a decision and accepts a challenge on it. He's got good intentions and just needed to follow his guilt ultimately. Of course it's the king's fault. Of course this is all Viserys' fault. Viserys has everything, has the wrong of it in that he thinks that he just needs to like produce more Targaryens, and that Alicent Hightower is this great character and Otto Hightower is this great character. He trusts the wrong people, and he doesn't really like every moment where there's a chance to fix things, he passes them up, for some reason. And so it's a lot of bad decisions from Viserys. A lot of bad decisions. Like, one, Viserys should have married Rhaenys way back in the day. Okay, way back in the day. And now maybe Rhaenys did want to marry Corlys, but so maybe that was bad. But Jaehaerys should have been like, no, like you marry Viserys, like peel the rift, but or you just don't do incest at all and stop with the incest and the dragons and all this, so you can stop producing crazy people. But after that, I mean, geez, like Viserys, yeah, probably should have married Laena instead of Alicent. Should have never married Alicent. Should have married. I'm trying to think. Like, there's so many marriage opportunities going down that are just possibilities for everything to come together. Like Jace and Helena, whatever you want. But it's just so many. But just at random moments, he's like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I want Rhaenyra to be able to choose who she wants. Oh, actually, no, I don't. You have to marry Laenor because I don't want her marrying. I want her to be happy, so she can't marry Aegon. But I'm going to marry Aegon to Helena. Like Aegon doesn't like Helena. Like all of a sudden, he doesn't care about kids being happy. Like he just changes his advice, his mind at a whim for no reason. There's no logic to any of it. Why is Viserys staying king when he wants family peace? Are you saying like why isn't he killed by the Maester conspiracy or whatever? I think they're trying to get the High Towers into position. The Blacks still have the upper hand. The Blacks have the upper hand the entire war. The Blacks always have the upper hand, but the so delaying Viserys' death as long as possible is good for the Greens as they collect more and more power. Velaryons or Valyrians, they choose their heirs. It's not really established. I know that Corlys chooses Adam of Hull, and it's not. I don't think there's that much. There's not that much dispute on it, so maybe. Let's see here. Corlys went so far in the book material. Adam of Hull gets the taint of bastardy removed, and therefore he would be Laenor's child because he's believed to be Laenor's child. Whether that's true or not is a question, but nonetheless, he's supposed to be the trueborn child of Laenor and therefore heir to Driftmark. So they don't choose their heir in the book, in the source material. So I think they're just on Westerosi succession. You nerds are obsessed with Rhaest. Rhaest are some of the most maladjusted dweebs. It's hard not to be race is very important in America. It's a very, very important thing. Is mulatto racist? I don't think so. Why would that be a racist term?
It's okay. I gave Preston the M card. He's good.
Yeah.
I got him.
I mean, I don't understand. I think people are like, has it ever been used as a racist term? I don't know. I mean, I think people don't like when you go into like quadroon and octoroon and stuff. Like that sounds a little weird because we start there. Like when you start doing that, like those terms are specifically talked about in terms of whether or not the person can still be considered a slave and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't think. I'm just using a more accurate sense. Oh, according to the dictionary, offensive dated. I don't know why it would be offensive, but whatever. I won't use it anymore. But I was using it more in a specific sense that he was one half black, half white. let's see. If you're fucking dudes in jail, you're gay. Um, who knows? Who cares? You know, it doesn't matter. Um, like so I have a lot of like friends who are who are scientists, doctors and such, who've done research on lab rats, and they've said it, the discussion of like whether animals are gay and can be gay, and it's like, well, he's like, with rats, it's like it doesn't matter which rats you put in a cage together. Rats are horny all the fucking time, so no matter no matter what rats you put in, they're just gonna start fucking. So you can't be like, oh, that's a gay rat. Well, rats are fucking everything. So like, how could you like how could we even tell if they're trisexual? They're try anything, like how do we know if they're gay rats or heterosexual rats when they're fucking absolutely everything? So I don't know. I mean, people have lots of reasons for having sex, and people have lots of reasons for feelings and whatever, and sexuality is a spectrum, and depending on conditions and things like that, and people get lonely, and there are all sorts of other like considerations in prison that deal with like violence and coercion. So who knows. So it doesn't matter. Has George R. R. Martin seen the movie Misery? I think he has. I think somebody's referenced that once. Do you think Jace is Criston's and that we'll find out? I think it might be like a card that they're keeping, that the writers are keeping just in case, like they want to throw it out there sometime. Because we haven't established Jace's age. Criston and Rhaenyra did have sex on screen. We had the moon tea. If they never get back to it, they never get back to it. But it's just one of those cards that they can play later, right? They don't want to paint themselves into a corner. So they didn't go one way or the other. So, House of the Dragon treats its black characters so badly. Bad tropes. Maester Orwyle isn't. Archmaester Orwyle's doing okay, or Grandmaster Orwyle, right? Yeah. Salador Sound got to live. He had a happy ending. I think Vale and Rhaena are gonna live and have fine lives at the end. So, why didn't Daemon care that his daughters were hurt? You're right. Daemon's just a dick. Okay, Daemon's horrible.
Holy shit, that's a very good point. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. That they all got punched and hit, and didn't have, he just was like, whatever. I'm just watching back here. I have no like.
And forces his daughters to attend a wedding with his niece a day or two after.
Yeah, maybe 2 weeks after. I mean, let's be nice and say it was 2 weeks, but still, like, it's just freaking weird. Preston, I have a question. Do you still believe the Ice Walkers came for DNA? I think that George R. R. Martin writes things to be open, and he takes from his own writing, and so I think he was taking a situation from his own writing. And I may have read into that. If they choose, if he chooses not to go that path and just wants to do what they did in the book, that they just take random people and add them to the ranks, and they completely assimilate. They don't produce any of their own. It's my kid in the background. I don't know if you heard that, but but that's I think he left it open, but obviously the show made me walk back and think about like, maybe they're not going that route, but it does, that the White Walkers are just evil by themselves. But it's weird because I've heard George R. R. Martin make like contradict himself in interviews about the nature of the White Walkers. Like I've had people ask him like, "Oh, what's the best analogy for the White Walkers?" And he'll say like global warming. And you're like, "Well, global warming sounds like an like evil thing, just unadulterated evil, and that the story of Ice and Fire is about everybody bickering amongst themselves and not seeing the real threat out there." Okay, but then I've also had people ask him like, "Oh, are the White Walkers just purely evil, or or is there more to it?" And him saying, "Well, you got to keep reading. You have to wait." Um, so I mean, I don't know. He's just keeping it open. So, hmm. Um, Mulatto is an outdated term for like Oriental. The word means mule. Preferred term is biracial. Yeah, I mean, I guess, but even saying mule, I mean, is calling white people horse and black people donkey, or white people donkey and black people horse, necessarily offensive? I mean, people find stuff offensive just because things can be offensive just for being offensive. Like I understand, like, I mean, you brought up Oriental. Like Oriental simply means Eastern, but as opposed to Occidental, and here in Asia, things are named Oriental stuff all the time. They don't have the same sort of like idea, but American Asians have find the word offensive, and so they think it promotes an exoticized an idea. So if they don't like it, we won't use it. So I just didn't know. But it's outdated. It's outdated. It's fine. Does it really come from? Let me see the etymology. No, mule. Yeah, okay. It comes from mula, Portuguese word for mula, maybe? Mulas? Hmm. Okay. I mean, if obviously if you break it down, there's nothing offensive about the word, but if people think it's offensive, it's offensive though. I've never come across a biracial person who 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 told me that. While with Asian people, I've met Asian people that have been like, I don't like the term Oriental. So, um, let's see. How do you know the rats are gay? We don't know. We don't know. Let's see. Why didn't Damon care that his daughters were attacked? Yeah, we talked about this. This is just like I say, they really screwed up a lot of the parental stuff here. Like why they needed to waste more time on on the uh, the legitimacy and who believed in the legitimacy of Jace and Luke, and um, you know, oh, mulatto is not racist in Latin America, but is in the USA. Okay, that's kind of like word Oriental, racist in certain places, not in others. Um, the adult Aegon the second literally looks nothing like the teenage Aegon. People's noses
None of
don't
them do.
shrink.
None of them. You want to see what he looks like? By the way, I can send it to you.
Yeah,
Let me
let's
just.
bring up these pictures.
I got you because he looks like a. They really cast him as like a sniveling, weaselly looking character. Here's a great picture of both of them, Aemond and Aegon.
Yeah,
Wait, was he? Is this person say about? Oh, Aegon. Okay, yeah,
yeah.
Aegon looks. They definitely made him look like Diet Coke Joffrey, and they're definitely making Aemon look like Daemon 2.0.
Yeah, it's funny because I really do like the Aegon actor. Um, I hope that the new one is as good. But I really liked Aegon. It's too bad to let it. It's sorry to let him have him go. Um, okay. Here is. Can I get that? Can I get this smaller? Yeah. I want this. And then, obviously, what is this? The kid from Stranger Things?
No, I don't think so. You mean the one with the big nose, the main guy? That's
Yeah, doesn't it kind of look like Finn Wolfhard? That's the. But yeah, they do not look anything alike. Bigger chin, smaller nose. This guy, this actor really got it. I really liked him. Really liked him. It's too bad. Really too bad. Too bad. Honestly, it's a big gathering. Criston Punchhammer. Yeah, just from Criston's point of view, like, even if you were willing to do that in a smaller gathering, he knows he would have been cut down by the rest of the Kingsguard had he tried to go over and like take a kid's eye out. Like, well, then again, he did it at the freaking wedding and no one did anything. So maybe I'm just taking that back. Oh man. Mulatto comes from Arabic muwalid, person of mixed ancestry. Yeah, it said that it was no one knows where the term came from, so we don't know. Yeah, that's true. We're not sure where the term comes from. People come up with these like etymology musts, like this word comes from this, and you're like, no, we don't know that. We don't know that. We have very little idea of where a language comes from. There's a lot of assumptions. There's a lot of assumptions. Well, this sounds like the Latin word for whatever. Therefore, no, it's guesswork. It's freaking guesswork. Yeah, but yeah, disputed etymology. Almost everything. Almost all etymology is disputed. So like I've heard people talk about the term like gypsy, and they're like, oh, that's an offensive term because it means like gypped. It comes from gypped, and you're like, no proof of that, but if Roma don't like the term gypsy, so I'm not going to use the word gypsy. I'm going to call them Roma. That's fine. Like I say, if someone says to me, I want to be called Squidman, I'm going to call you Squidman. Okay, that's my preferred name. I'm not going to dead name anybody. Okay, like whatever people want to be called, I'll call them. Just have some leniency in that. Occasionally I'm going to be not up on the latest term. That's it. That's all I ask is some leniency if I make a mistake. But I'll call people whatever they want to be called. But this idea, these theories of where terms come from, it's just made up. It's just these words sound the same, therefore they must have come from each other. Oh, really? It's like it's the same process of like how Aristotle classified animals, like bats and birds, like look the same. Therefore, they must be like of the same type of animal. Yeah. Why marry Daemon? Daemon really already supports her. What's she gain? She alienates the Valyrians. Yeah, it's a bad. It's not considering that we murder somebody over it. And risk the it's really horrible. So
does Daemon I have to counter this. Does Daemon really support her? Because judging by what we've seen of Daemon, we don't know what the fuck he wants, what the hell he plans on doing. He's the biggest wild card in the show so far. I think by marrying Daemon, she secures his support, because wasn't he planning on going back to Pentos? He says that to Viserys. That he's planning.
I mean, I think at this point we just assume that Daemon wants power for himself. That he wants to be king. So like he'll wait for Rhaenyra to be queen, and then probably kill Rhaenyra off. Right. This is the Daemon we've seen so far. There's nothing to be gained.
You could argue it's in his interest to align with Rhaenyra, because now that they have Vhagar and Dreamfire and Sunfire. 3 versus 1 dragon, like they could come after.
Right, or one could argue that he's super into the prince of the promised prince, the prince of the prince that was promised.
Uh,
Prophecy
I
now,
hold on.
and that he wants to produce Azor Ahai,
Uh,
right?
check Facebook.
Because we've gone. I mean, it doesn't really make sense because he ends up having two sons with Rhaenyra. But you know, he could say the dragon has three heads. I've got two daughters, and now I need a son. Or he's like, oh, I've got the dragon has once he's with Rhaenyra, the dragon has three heads, so I need to have three kids, and then their last kid dies. But right.
I sent you a message. Check that.
Okay.
I'll tell you privately, but I won't.
Yeah.
Should I tell you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Really? Huh.
Yep. Why would he
Okay.
though?
All right. Last episode was all for. This is all private stuff. He sent me a dick pic. Sent me a dick pic. It's just nothing but a dick pic.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah. Are the rat skin changed by Larys? Yeah, I talked about this earlier that there is actually a George R. R. Martin story called Dark Were the Tunnels about a guy who has a litter of rats that he skin changes and controls. And so I think it's very George R. R. Martin to actually have like him do that. But it's a fairly obscure story. I don't know if like Ryan Condal would have read Dark Were the Tunnels, but maybe also the rats are just leaving the walls because Larys is behind them, and that's why you see the rats is because he's behind the wall and he flushed the rat out. But I think it's right now it's just we're connecting it to cheese and Preston uses the word Dracarys, Crakaris. And I agree that Aegon should be king as much as I dislike him. I don't know. I mean, I think we have a tradition of like choosing heirs at this point. So I don't know if Aegon would really. I mean, I would probably have the belief that Rhaenyra has the. I think Rhaenys has the true of it, or really, I think Dreamfire Rhaena probably, and her children Arya, and like if she got swapped, the real heir is probably somebody else. Actually, I believe in democracy, and there shouldn't be a monarchy, so it doesn't matter. So, but Viserys, like these people all swore oaths to Rhaenyra, so they're all going back on themselves. So they're liars. We're talking about the Roma still. What's interesting is when I lived in Jordan, there was a whole slew of Roma there who were like a different branch from India than the ones that ended up mainly in Romania. But there's this large like Roma population there in Jordan, which is really weird. Let's see here. The show needs more good mustaches. Does anyone have a mustache, Carmine?
I do. I have a porn stash right now.
No, but does anyone in the show have a mustache?
Oh, in the show, the Cargill twins do. And
does
mustache...
Westerling, or does he have a full beard?
I think he has a full beard.
The Cargill twins are going to have mustaches.
No, I think they also have full beards as well. They're finally coming into the show, by the way, and I think no, they have full beards.
Okay,
and a mustache.
They really, yeah. Considering that, like the Dothraki all have mustaches, like the show has been very anti-mustache. Which, you know, it's always this like really creepy thing to think about. Like everyone loves Jason Momoa's portrayal of Khal Drogo. So now that we think about Dothraki, we think of Khal Drogo, but really, like, they have their mustachios, and they look like creepy dudes. Don't beards mean mustaches? I mean, we're in this situation of like, is a thumb a finger? Like, depends on the context, obviously. Like, when we say, oh, he has a mustache, it implies that he does not have a beard. Even though, yes, if someone has a beard and you're like, oh, can I touch the mustache part of your beard? Like, yes, we'll understand what we're talking about. But the context of the word is, you know, context matters, you know. So, you know, what we need is mustaches.
Jackie makes a good point. In the books, doesn't Aegon II have a mustache? But in the previews, he does not. I think they're not going to give him any facial hair to keep him Diet Coke Joffrey.
Yeah, you're right. Let me see here. Oh. So these are some funny kind of things. Like Aegon the Conqueror, when he came in, actually had only a wispy beard and a mustache. That's so like when all these pictures of like the majestic Aegon the Conqueror is kind of wrong. You know, like he had a mustache, like a blonde mustache, and like this like tiny little wispy beard, so he kind of looked lame. Um, but and then who else has mustaches? Um, Tymond Lannister has a mustache, and I don't know. Yeah, I didn't know that Aegon II has a mustache. At least I don't see anything in Fire and Blood about it. We also need good mutton chop representations. Who has the mutton? Well, I suppose we just have uh, um, Cassell, right? He had the mutton chops.
Yeah, he did. Roger Cassell's mutton chops looked like they were one accident away from fucking up his face. That made me nervous every time I saw him with his mutton chops, and he has like chainmail on. Ugh.
I mean, mustaches are a funny thing because like if you're a shaving man, you understand that like the lip is the hardest part of the body to shave. It's just really really annoying. Like it's annoying. It's a stronger bristly hair, so it hurts more to shave. But also like just getting it out of like your nose and everything is just such a pain. So I can
Do you
understand why a lot of people would want to keep the mustache. Um, and then some people also mention that like the mustache goes gray later so that a man can look younger by shaving the beard and keeping the mustache. Um,
hmm.
some you know some weird stuff there. There's lots of different like you know thoughts about it. Um, Mustaches were really really popular when I was in the Middle East, which was kind of funny because there's actually this war um, because some people believe that Muhammad had a beard and no mustache, and so when you see these you know religious zealots, and there's a lot, they'll grow the beard and shave the mustache. But then there's this whole other group of Arabs and Persians who believe like a good strong mustache is like that's a manly man. And so there's like the serious like hair. There's a lot of you cue a lot of things to people with like how you wear your facial hair in the Middle East, and so like having a good manly mustache, or are you going to go like the pious route and go for like beard, no mustache? You know,
Why don't you shave yours? Why don't you let it grow?
uh,
Is it your
I mean,
job?
I've had a beard in different times in my life, but I would say that I just it eventually just starts itching, and I start playing with it with my tongue. Like when I grow out my beard, I'm just constantly like, And
What?
so
I've never done that.
have you ever had a full beard?
Yes.
You didn't play with it with your tongue at all?
No, but I would do that thing that like you know how Vosh has the full beard and he like always rubs it and like he's thinking. I would do
Yeah,
that sometimes,
that
but I
happens.
need a
Yeah.
beard otherwise I look like a child. But
Oh,
yeah,
I see. I see. Yeah, I mean, I've had beards for a long time. I mean, different times. Obviously when you're younger, you want to prove you're a man, and so that you can grow a beard. And then I've had different girlfriends have different preferences.
yeah. What the hell was that?
So generally speaking, what I found in life, this is completely unhelpful advice for people, like because what I found is that 25% of women love beards, and 25% of women love a clean shaven face, and 50% of women don't care. So like now also there's kind of overlap. I think 75% of women think scruff looks really cool, but 0% of women like the feel of a scruffy beard. So like you can look really cool if you grow your scruff, but like you're gonna give your girlfriend a rash when you like kiss her, because they hate the prickles. But you look cool, but like it practically speaking, like like so I suppose if you're single, grow the stubble, and then once you get into a relationship, shave it. Because like she's gonna like the way it looks, she's gonna hate the way it feels. But for the most part, like, should I grow a beard or have myself clean shaven? Like, if you're worrying about like attraction, like it depends on the person. But for the most women don't care. But so ask her what she prefers, or if you're really ugly, grow the beard. Every time I see Damon after the time jump, I think it's Matthew McConaughey, Dazed and Confused. That's what I love about these high school girls, man. I get older, they stay the same age. That's kind of true, where she's like, I'm not a child anymore. Well, I look exactly the same. My brother looks like shit, but I look exactly the same. Criston Cole, though, he's the one. Man, that guy. Cole don't crack. Cole don't crack. Only a king has a neck beard. That'd be nice. King neck beard is Viserys. I would love if Aegon the Conqueror turned out to be this super ineffectual dude who was actually just a tool for Visenya. I know I needed it until I saw Matt Smith's whiny, impotent Daemon. It's kind of it's an interesting take. And in fact, Fire and Blood is for the most part pretty empty on the life of Aegon. Like, not much was written. It was very clear that like George was trying to get a book out the door, and he just like wrote over like I talk about this a lot, how Fire and Blood is just such fucking like lazy crapped out material. But like he had Sons of the Dragon, Princess and the Queen, and Rogue Prince already written. So, he had all the reigns except for Jaehaerys and Aegon. And even Aegon, he had Aegon's Conquest already written for the world of Ice and Fire. So he just needed to like fill in the end of Aegon and then write Jaehaerys. And so what does he do? He fills in like a long thing about Corlys and like Alyssa Farman and like all this random stuff about Sarah Targaryen, and he writes almost nothing about Aegon. And then he's just like, yep, call it a day, publish that shit. Like, it's just oh. Phil is here. Phil, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I heard the mustache talk. I wasn't sure if I was going to join in, but I couldn't not join in for mustache talk. I didn't want to interrupt you guys, but but I had to I had to jump in on that part of the discussion.
Yes, yes, of course. Do you think there needs to be more mustaches?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think you do need some mustache. Have you
Wait,
answered the question?
Phil, you're echoing a little bit.
Oh, not for
Okay,
me.
give me a second.
You sound fine to me, Phil.
Okay, cool. People in the live chat tell me if I'm echoing too bad or anything like that. Preston, did you answer the question that people in the chat wrote? Have you ever grown a beard?
Yeah. No, I've grown a beard a few times in my life, and I had a couple exes that preferred them, and so I kept my facial hair in their preference, but for the most part, I think I prefer to not have a beard, and my current wife doesn't care one way or the other. So
when I was in a play at the end of it premiered in 2020, right before everything got shut down. For about 4 months for the part, I needed to have a mustache, like a big
really?
Magnum PI Targaryen, big huge mustache. It was pretty bad. It was funny going through life for a couple of months with a big goofy mustache.
Now you've got the full beard, yes?
On and off. Let me see if I can do a on camera situation.
Sure.
Give me a second. See, I don't know. Let me see if this works. Yeah, did I see if my camera actually comes on?
Okay.
But if my computer's being slow tonight, I don't know if what I have is considered a mustache or not, because I have a separation between the beard and the mustache. So it possibly is not. Do you consider what Harwin had? Did Harwin have a mustache?
No, I thought that was a full beard.
Full beard, yeah.
Yeah, no. When I think mustache, I think shaved on the chin and everything. So,
Yeah, full shaved on the chin. I agree. That's you need to be. Again, it's Burt Reynolds, Tom Selleck. That's what I think of when I think of mustache. Those two guys.
Well, yeah, obviously, like they're these classic. There's always like somebody that that wears it really well that comes along that like changes everything. And it's just like what I'm based. I'm gonna pull the mustache. There's fewer of them though today. I can't. I don't want to pull off a mustache.
No, it's
also hard. Like my beard comes in different colors. My mustache is rather blonde, and my beard was rather red. And so
for a big enough super chat, would you grow a full beard?
No, it would have to be super big.
I want to see this. The way you described it, I'm like, I want to see this.
I mean, I think if I grew it now, it'd be gray. But like,
that's me. I have white as my whole.
Yeah.
I just fermented it for a few years because I felt uncomfortable, but then I just went with it. I did. I bought the dye. I dyed the beard for a few years.
Yeah. Oh, like the Just for Men thing. It's weird because like now, whenever I see anybody, I mean, it's weird how now that I've become an old man and I've aged, and like when I watch movies and I see people who look a certain way, and I'm just like, well, that's fake. Like, like you watch a movie and you see a 45-year-old character with a hairline that goes straight across their forehead. And I'm just like, okay, so he's got pear plugs. Like no human being at 45 has their fucking hair like that. Like, it's just so ridiculous. It looks like, to me, it looks goofy. Like, did you watch Moon Knight?
Yes.
Ethan Hawke's like hair in that. I'm just like, what human being like has a hairline like that at that age? Like, it's just ridiculous. Let me pull up like what I'm talking
Al
about.
Pacino also did that for a while. Towards the end of his run of his big roles, he would dye his facial hair all black. Ben Stiller does it often.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can get away with it. I have to say, like, if you're from a background where you have jet black hair, like say you're Asian or Middle Eastern, I think you can get away with it more. But the thing about white people's hair is multicolored. You know, so if you like yank it, if you yank out a white person's hair, brown hair, say, you'll see that like some of the strands are dark brown and some of the strands are light brown and some of the strands are blonde. Like, and that's how like our hair works. That's why like when you'll see people with dyed hair and it doesn't look right because every strand is the same color. It's really hard to like recreate the look of hair when hair is naturally many colors together. So like look at Ethan Hawke's hair here. Like it's just like that just takes away from me. Like no one has a hairline like that. Like
He looks like he looks like a Targaryen. He looks like he should be
Right.
jerking off out a window or something.
Right. And so who's the guy that did Fancy Like? Yeah, this guy, Walker Hayes, right? All right. So this is what I'm talking about, like the Just for Men look, right? You know, like
Yep.
you're like
Ben Affleck also does it in a few roles where suddenly his beard is jet black completely.
right,
You know,
like no one's gonna have a beard like so perfectly black in every single part. Like, come on,
it's so perfect. It's so perfect.
right? So it's I think it goes the same with like teeth. When you see people with like teeth that are too perfect, and you're like, okay, so those are all capped. You know, like there is a beauty to imperfection. In fact, I don't know very much about pearls, but I know that if you take pearls into to get appraised, like they look for imperfections to prove that they're real. That like a good pearl is one with nearly no imperfections, but you need an imperfection to show that it's not fake, you know? So
Now, I want to touch on something I heard you talking about just as I came on. Like, if they did an Aegon the Conqueror and he really wasn't all that, he was sort of a screw up of some sort. That reminds me of the Star Trek First Contact thing, where they make Zephyrin Cochrane, instead of being this great hero that's discovered warp travel, he's just this drunk that did it by accident because he wanted to make money, or something like that. It was an interesting take on that kind of character.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's the great thing about you know like these legends of Aegon the Conqueror, and then reading. I mean, you read Fire and Blood, and he's actually like, you know, wispy, can't grow beard kind of guy. Like you meet Aegon the Conqueror, and he's really like this Woody Allen type of character. He's like completely
Get over it. My beard is mighty, says someone in the live chat. It's tough. I mean, I've never grown a full. I guess I did briefly, like a full ridiculous, like Jim Morrison drunk, drinking wine kind of beard. At one point in time, I did. But it's tough. It's tough to keep that up. It smells. It's dirty. It's tough to keep.
Yeah. So what people forget about these things about like the human mind and faces, and like I don't like plastic surgery. It looks odd. Good plastic surgery doesn't look odd. So you know how we as human beings think all cat faces look the same, you know, and but human faces were really good at like getting those slight differences. Like we can tell like somebody from their brother. We can tell twins apart, you know, because the human mind has evolved over the years to really notice very subtle, small changes to faces, and that's how we recognize people. You know, we don't do that for hands. You know, we don't do that for feet. You know, and this is why like cats all look the same to us, but like human faces, very very are very distinct to us. We remember everybody's face and we identify that. So it's funny that like there's this whole industry of people trying to change their faces to something that's not natural and thinking that they're going to fool people. Like I really hate like the fake lip thing, like that the women get, you know, the collagen lips, you know, or like the too much Botox in the forehead or things like that. Like you immediately go, oh, that person had work done. Like it's the first thing, because it's not like you're not beating like hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Like, you can't, like, you're not tricking people, Now I admit that, like, good plastic surgery, I think, like, okay, perhaps a good facelift or like a couple of Botoxes, like, may fool some people,
you get
but
like John Stamos or something like that. That like,
yeah,
or someone that can kind of pull it off. But then for every one of that, and rest in peace, you got like Joan Rivers and what the hell she did to herself.
There's also pulling it off for movies and pulling it off in real life. Like, even John Stamos, who looks incredible. I think if you met him in real life, you'd be like, that guy looks weird.
Yeah,
like,
probably.
Like, why does he have an old face and jet black hair? Like,
I can see a drip. I can see something dripping from his hair. I think he just put his dye in. Absolutely, it does. That's a big difference, and that's a good point. It's what looks good on camera and what can they frame on camera, and what does that person look like actually in person. It's very, very different. Even in the context of something like this, how you look on camera just from the face up, you can't get the concept. You're very tall, right? You're like 6'3", 6'4", something like that.
Oh yeah. I'm 6'5" and 3/4.
Yeah, so it's like you that doesn't come through from there. So if you met you in person, you'd be like, oh hey, I'm looking up.
Yeah, even and I'll do some weird things. So like when you have the ring light on, there's a different look because things are bright and you don't get as much depth to take the ring light off for a second. And if you look, like, I look a little more gaunt. I look thinner.
Yeah, you look more unhappy. I feel like I'm bothering you now.
Sure, I look unhappy, but I also look a lot thinner. Look, like, you can see the cheekbones. I like skinnier, right? Yeah. Gaunt, like.
He looks unhappy, Phil.
Yeah, he looks unhappy. This angle. This looks unhappy.
We're bothering.
Put the light back on.
This is why people say, like, the camera adds like 20 pounds and
stuff.
Oh,
see, now I feel welcome. Now I feel sorry, that's stupid. But now I feel very welcome.
Yeah. So any last thoughts on the episode, Phil? Did you like it? Where would you rank it in the season?
I would probably rank it more towards the bottom of my favorites of the season, but I guess it's unnecessary because it was more of a moving the plot along episode to a certain extent, because we're just sort of stalling for the next time jump. I thought the best part of the episode was from the dragon part to the end, from Aemond with the dragon to the end of the episode. Even though Aemond with the dragon was a little bit the never-ending story with him like hanging on the like that. Yeah, exactly. There was like an Atreyu kind of moment, but I thought the parallels between that and then this next, because I was like rooting for him for a second, and then suddenly he's getting into a fist fight, calling these kids. But it was a good kind of parallel, and then the switcheroo thing at the end I thought was pulled off from a television standpoint pretty well. And but the beginning part of the episode was slowish. And considering the season's moved at an epic pace, it's interesting the times that they're choosing to slow things down. It's not necessarily where I'm wanting them to slow things down.
Right. Like I was saying, all the looks, like they spent so much time looking at each other. A little too, like, I thought direction-wise was beautifully shot. Like, and I thought beautiful shots, especially that beginning of that funeral scene, and how well put together and beautiful that was. But it was a little slow at times, and I think a lot of the decisions people made were pretty chaotic. I guess I guess having seen it now, I would rank this as one of the weaker. Yeah. I think they went Alicent went a little too nuts in that meeting and got away with a little too much. I don't think it was necessarily as bad as episode 4, but I think right now my favorite episodes are episode 4 and 6.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. 6 is definitely my favorite episode of the season, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I liked it a lot, even though it's not cohesive. But like, I don't know, Carmine. Are you? How you love the ranking parts, man?
This episode was fine. Like a lot of it, this is something I actually cut out of my review because I know how people are. People are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Sorry, grabbing my water bottle. I feel as though there are some pacing issues, and I feel as though a lot of what we've seen so far is to get to this one point of Daemon and Rhaenyra getting together. Because didn't you find it fucking weird how like even though they haven't seen each other in over 10 years, it's almost like there's no time lost between them.
Yeah.
Like they're long lovers, and
Mhm.
but you guys barely even spent time together in the past.
Right.
What
You've
is
been
this?
married, you fell in love with somebody else, or fell in
And
love,
I hate to
had
say
two
this because I don't want to.
kids. Yeah.
I don't want to dwell on this too much because I've dwelled on this too much already. All the chemistry built between Damon and Rhaenyra was built with a different actress, and
Yeah.
for now it hasn't matched up yet. This isn't about Emma Darcy as an actress; she's pulling off the part incredibly. It's just the chemistry from a like excitable, romantic-y, sexual level was better with Millie Alcott and Matt
Yes.
Smith. And
So I'm going to bring up something for you, Phil. Do you remember in Deep Space Nine
yes,
when they built all of this chemistry between Jadzia Dax and Worf, and then
Yep.
they switched the Jadzia Dax to Ezri Dax, and they had this random episode where Ezri Dax hooks up with Worf, and it was horrible.
Yeah, they were on a mission and they got captured and they randomly like brought it back for a second just so they could have and it was awkward and weird.
Yeah. And everybody hated it because they were already establishing like the Ezri Dax like Bashir chemistry.
With Julian, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like
With
you
Julian,
can't just switch the actress and expect the chemistry to be there, or if you need to build it up again. So I think like the Ezri Dax thing is like the perfect example of that, where like it was the same Dax. The Dax symbiont for some reason wanted to have sex with Worf, but like
it really liked Worf. It liked that Klingon honor.
Yeah, I guess so. That he got on Earth with his Russian parents.
It was okay to die, Nostrovia.
But yeah, there was a lot of crazy in this episode.
And Coomer, it wasn't their fault. It was her fault. She had a problem with Rick Berman with contract negotiations, and he was kind of a dick to her. But she also chose eventually to leave for Becker. But they did do Terry Farrell really dirty, and she probably should have been on the series. That was probably a great series. That was probably one of the. It's a shame that she had to go out that way.
Hold on, Phil. Because I love Deep Space Nine. It's my favorite track. I didn't know about this. I saw the documentary What We Left Behind that they put out. I don't know if you saw that about the Deep Space Nine. And
I did as well.
See, she started crying. It said it was like she felt she wasn't being heard. What was her problem with the show?
I think there were some contractual issues and they were only set for 6 seasons. So for the following season, she wanted a little bit of bump or something like that. And Rick Berman was kind of a dick to her, who was the head of it all about paying her and kind of gave her, you're nothing, you'd be nothing without the show. And she's like, I was in Back to School and like other shit too before this. I can get other roles.
Yeah.
And they kind of dared her to get another part. And so she got the part on Becker, which was a show with Ted Danson.
I mean, it only went a couple seasons, but she was earning a good paycheck on that. Yeah.
Right. So she ended up leaving. And then there was an issue where they showed a clip from her in the series finale and they didn't pay her for her rights. So she got pissed and she kind of sued them too. But they ended up making it good eventually. But the series probably should have ended with her. She was all right, and she pulled it off. There's a couple of good episodes. She had some decent chemistry with Garrick, but for the most part, I think too much of the 7th season was wasted in establishing her and took away from the Dominion arc. But it's still one of the greatest shows of all time.
It was also, there's budgetary stuff. Like when they added Michael Dorn, they could no longer give any bumps to people, especially not the lower characters, and so they didn't have the money to. They didn't have the money to give her a promotion, even though she deserved a promotion because they added the other character. It's actually the issue of what happened on Angel. Charisma Carpenter was having friction. It's almost the same thing again. Charisma Carpenter was having some friction. She wanted a pay bump. They were like, sorry, we're bringing in the guy from Buffy.
Yeah, we're bringing in Spike.
Yeah, and she's like, what? And she's like, yep, and she was written out of the show. Yeah.
Yep, they did it. And again, I want to say that Emma Darcy's doing a fine job acting in the role. I'm not saying,
but they
her,
needed more scenes. They needed more
yeah,
scenes.
more establishing scenes rather than snap all that chemistry that we built up with the other actress suddenly gets transformed to this to Emma, and we're supposed to buy it right away. I just didn't 100%. It wasn't right. Their chemistry.
Add a scene rather than her looking at him at the funeral and walking away. Go talk to him. Have a scene. Like have another scene where she talks to him later, and then go to the beach. Anything. Just add a little more. I'm with you.
Gecko, I challenge you. Other than Neelix, F Neelix. He says Star Trek had great bartenders. Yeah, Whoopi and Quark. I mean, they were both great. They were both great.
I mean,
Neelix. They wanted Neelix to be the same thing as the two of them, and he wasn't. The Doctor was way cooler.
Yeah, Neil. But yeah, also it's hard to. The Tuvix situation is like such a powerful episode, and it completely makes you change your opinion of Neelix and Janeway and everybody on the dirty they did to Tuvix.
Now, Preston, that's the thing about Voyager. Unlike Next Generation, and this is my opinion, people can say I'm effing wrong about this, but Voyager had great episodes and great arcs, but it still overall disappointed on some level, where Next Generation and Deep Space Nine pulled it off. Where Next Generation Enterprise had great episodes, but weren't overall perfect.
Yeah, I would say that Voyager is almost as a victim of its own success in the sense that like it brought forth more interesting moral questions, but they were moral questions that would break the cast. It's moral questions that would break a group of people. And they just kind of forgot about it the next episode. You have much larger things. Like we're totally on a tangent, but I'm like the episode where the Doctor spends an entire life like as
an opera singer or something like
or he has a son and then he just goes back. But then again, I guess they get that TNG, and that was stupid too.
Did you? I'm sorry. Last tangent on Voyager. They actually at one point they had such cool things built up in the cast with the Maquis versus the Federation. They could have done more with that. And then like something like the Year of Hell, which was with Red Foreman, like a 3-part.
Could have done a whole year.
They were supposed to. The initial plan was supposed to be a whole season of Year of Hell, and they wimped out on it in the last minute and decided to just do it as a shorter arc. That's the problem. That's why Deep Space Nine was the best series, because Iris Stephen Bear, I believe is his name, had he wanted to push the envelope, and it didn't always work, but he always tried to do something different from season 3 through season 7.
And bring this back to House of the Dragon because we are.
Sorry about this.
No. But like, that's the thing about House of the Dragon is that there are these moments where they need to push everything to the limit, and taking stuff from the source material and bring it to these emotional breaking points, but like. It's like too much because like human relationships break down if you're pushing people to like these emotional limits. Like, how can you go back to the way it was? How can you put the toothpaste back in the tube and expect things to be right? Like, like Laenor and Laena have died within a couple weeks of each other, and there's no reason for the Valarians to support Rhaenyra. Like, and then why are they? Like. You just can't do it in one episode and expect everything to be fine the next episode,
The sons, their sons are still, her sons are still supposedly Valerians, but this is what I think is going to happen in the next one, because Aemond is going to be a huge issue, and because Rhaenyra probably takes care of him. I don't know this, by the way, speculation based on the preview. I think Rhaenyra is going to take care of him like she does in the books, and it's going to win more of the Valerian support. That's my guess.
Sorry, late because I have a newborn. The day for night almost made us turn off the episode. Yeah, that was a little weird at the first. I mean, there's a lot of illogical stuff in this episode. And there's a lot of illogical stuff in the last episode, which was the previous question. And then it's always about like whether the good like allows you to overcome the bad, because we will put aside stuff that's not logical if it's good,
Yeah.
like for instance, I don't mind that Laenor is leaving Sea Smoke behind like that much. I'll probably still reference it in my video, but like I think it's kind of a cool little twist that he gets to live the happy life, right? Like, and so like if something's good, you forget that it's illogical. As I had the Godfather 2 discussion with Carmine last week about.
Did you hear about this, Phil?
No, I didn't hear that. I'm a big Godfather fan. What was the discussion?
Oh, this fucking guy, yo. Go ahead, Preston. Tell him why Godfather 2 sucks. Go ahead.
No,
go ahead,
I said that I didn't say Godfather 2 sucks. I said Godfather 2 is fundamentally the movie doesn't make sense. Because like it opens with this assassination attempt that like
yeah, who shot those two guys? Fredo didn't shoot those two guys. Fredo's a freaking joke, unless it was Rocco who ratted too, but we never know about that.
But if Rocco were ratting, then there's no point in having Fredo. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Why would Rocco rat on them when he's the one taking that suicide mission at the end?
But
so he's clearly loyal to Michael.
Right. He's so loyal to Michael that he's doing that suicide mission at the end. But again, if they turned Rocco, there's no need for Fredo. Like you just be like, oh, you turned Rocco, you kill him. Like
so. I said to Preston, because we had this conversation. But Preston goes, okay, so the assassins sent to kill Michael. Who killed the assassins? And I say, well, other assassins. But who do those assassins work for? Hyman Roth. Hyman Roth was behind the whole thing.
Yeah, but how did those guys get away?
How did those guys get away?
It had to be someone if we were to buy this, it had to be someone in the Corleone family that killed those two guys. It had
who lifted the blinds, right?
Right, that was Fredo. You got to believe that was Fredo. But like Neri didn't do it, and I don't think Rocco did it. So we're supposed to believe Fredo pulled all of this off. Fredo
murdered those assassins, right?
No, Fredo didn't do shit. Fredo bumbled his gun and couldn't protect his fucking Dawn and his dad. Like, no, Fredo didn't do shit. Fredo sleeps with the fishes now. He does.
But the day for night, it was weird that they were going to bed. I mean, it was maybe this is high summer.
I don't know if you guys. I don't know if you guys.
3 p.m. I don't know if you guys talked about this, but a couple people on my stream said it was tough for them to see this episode. That this was like a long night experience. That this episode was a bit too dark.
Huh.
This episode also, that scene of Daemon and Rhaenyra walking on the beach, that got leaked. I don't know if you remember this, Preston. We covered it. It was in the daytime, so they're just.
Oh yeah, they just like shaded it. Yeah. No, I think all of it. Yeah.
Huh. What's fascinating is how the fuck is HBO having a problem with filming night scenes, but Lord of the Rings and Peter Jackson did it phenomenally for like Two Towers. Battle in Hell's Deep was so good, and I could see everything. Yet I couldn't. It's very hard for me to see anything with this show. The fuck.
I don't know. Just film the stuff during the day. Like, does everything need to be at night? I think it needed to be at night because the CGI dragons look better at night than they do during the day. Yeah. I think that's why it was done. Yeah.
Hated someone in the chat said hated that night filter, like the episode overall, but wow, that was distracting. Sunny blue skies, but with that haze. Yeah, there was like a haze over everything. It wasn't something I noticed right away, but a couple people in the chat pointed it out, and I'm like, yeah, I guess it was. I just thought it was my TV. It's one of those you never think it's the show. I always think it's my equipment sucks.
They could have just put a lot of torches around. Like this is a funeral, this is a high castle or whatever. Just have torches around, So I don't know. But it was just a blue pop filter that they put over the camera to make it night, And if you put an orange pop filter over and it's Mexico. That's it. So
that's called the Westworld filter.
Right, or a green one and you're in the Matrix.
In the Matrix.
So...
Favorite.
Yeah, Helm's Deep was a dedicated set over a year. House of the Dragon shoots on locations. Yeah, night shots are expensive.
Was
Yeah.
but the battle at the wall was at night. That worked. I had no problem seeing that battle.
That's
Yeah,
true.
the final battle at Winterfell was the one that really
Was really the
was really
bad. That was the
bad.
only one in the main Game of Thrones. I think all the other battle sequences, even some of the ones tended to work in the main series. But that final battle, I mean, yeah, that was just. I mean, we don't have to dwell on that again. But tonight's episode, I think, was a little dark. Now that I think about it, especially in the Rhaenyra and Daemon scene, it was very noticeable.
Yeah.
Someone made a very good point. You know what it is? It's Miguel Spochnik, because he directed the Long Night episode. He directed this one too, and the previous ones at night, where it kind of looks weird. So it's probably just him.
By the way, what did you guys think of the sex scene?
No titty?
It went on for a long time. I mean, there's no titty
it
in the previous Rhaenyra one.
No titty.
I think we might have got some side boob.
A little side boob. I highly recommend rewatching it on HBO with the audio commentary on, where it says scene by scene what's happening. It's pretty hilarious.
Oh my god, the descriptions.
Yeah.
Daemon grabs Rhaenyra's breast. Is that kind of stuff?
They have that?
Yep, and then he thrusts repeatedly into her. I could almost pull it up right.
Oh my god,
it's ridiculous. It's hilarious. It's worth checking out. I play it. I used to recap like the episode, actually say what happened. Now I just play that because it's ridiculously hilarious. Especially in last episode with the Homelander scene, it was very. and then he's in the window. He strokes him. It's pretty crazy.
I didn't know they had that. I kind of want to put that in one of my videos now. I wonder if I'll get a strike for it.
It's amazing.
They do their best to portray masculinity and sex as awkward and shit, honestly. Well, that's real life. I mean, sex in real life is an awkward thing that's not that entertaining to look at.
Yes.
So really it's
strangers in the night bumbling. Yeah, strangers in the night bumbling into each other. It could be messy and it's a mess.
Yeah. I mean, sex in general is a fairly awkward thing. It doesn't look good for an onlooker. People are covering each other up for the most part. It's not like porn where like people are having sex in weird positions. It's just weird stuff. Sex is funny. That's the thing, is that we never really get in life is that sex is funnier and more awkward than TV will ever portray it as. It's either like, this beautiful connection between like lovers, or it's like hot sex, boom boom. It's just it's just weird. Sex is just weird. It's weird, and let's see. I guess I should probably, because I've been on a little over about 3.5 hours here, so I'll answer. Let's get one last question here, and then
I so want to take Alan Klein's, but we should keep it the House of the Dragon. He's like, speaking of the Godfather, I have a question about Salazzo. No, we'll do that. We'll do a separate Godfather stream at some point.
Oh, I mean, it's Godfather is stupid because like all the other families just like roll over when their heads get killed. But like the entire movie was about how if you take out the head of a family, the younger children just take over, and yet that doesn't go for every other family. Like the whole premise is stupid too.
Michael takes in the I don't want to say it like Game of Thrones. In the books, it makes a little more sense because he only takes out a couple of the heads of the family. Family doesn't take out all the families, but it's still kind of unbelievable that no one seeks revenge at that point.
Right, or like their son would be like, "Well, I'm now still the head of my family." Like it's. Silly.
Would you? I want to try to make this make sense, but. Because this is what Preston said about Godfather 1, which is his favorite. I like part 2. He likes part 1. And that makes a lot of sense. Would you also argue, though, that let's say you were next in line to be the head of the Strachey family. Would you be willing to go up against Michael Corleone, the guy who coordinated the deaths of like four of the heads of the five families? I wouldn't. That would be
You're not a
intimidating as fuck.
gangster.
Like,
You're not a fucking gangster. You haven't been
Not-
living the gangster life your whole life. These guys are all gangsters who have lived gangster lives, killing people and acting revenge and doing revenge and learning about like how family is the most important thing over and over and over again. You're not that, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't be
That's
Michael
the
Corleone
point.
either. You know what I would do if I were Michael Corleone? Sell everything, grab the money, move like
I mean,
you know,
that's
move to
kind of
France.
what he did. That's kind I mean, he moved to Vegas, but he left New York. By the time all that hit, he was already in Vegas pretty much. But I think to answer your question, Carmine, I would bide my time. If I was going to get revenge, I would not do it right away and wait for an opportunity when Michael least expects it, and then seek my revenge. I would go back to business as usual and wait for my opportunity. You did get one more super chat. Will Larys pull a Kaiser Soze? Says Kyle. Asked Kyle Holmes.
I'm leaning towards it. I mean, I from the beginning think Larys is cheese. I think he's been faking it. I think he's gonna. I think all the rats are pointing to that. I think he's going to be cheese, and I think he's been faking the limp the whole time. I know, and it's funny because it's going to be like a vindication moment because I've been talking about this for years, and people have been telling me that I'm crazy for years. So if it ends up being true, I'm going to be like, yeah, motherfuckers. I'll do a victory lap. Larys is cheese. I proved you all wrong.
Do a little dance, dance the Irish jig. Oh my god, all this Godfather talk's killing me because I want to answer every question. So
we should do a Godfather stream sometime.
We have to. I think we have to. There's enough. This seems to be enough interest here.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for joining me. This was fantastic. Thank you for taking the time out. Thank you everybody viewing who has been with me this long. What an episode. We'll talk to you guys soon. Later.